for the government to exercise fiscal policy, it needs to be in a position to do so. So what is being lost is that the government now finds itself in a position where it has the fiscal capacity to make the necessary adjustments which are required so that we can provide greater levels of relief to businesses and the residents of Bermuda. These measures should be fully supported. It is a balance between providing relief to residents and providing relief to our business community. The custom tariff 1970, the measures that are contained within that act that we are changing, to be clear, fall into 6 categories. We are lowering the duty rate on building materials and supplies. I first ask, who benefits from that change? The answer to the question is the entire community. Investors who are looking to develop, persons who are looking to renovate their properties, persons looking to acquire properties, which may now be affordable because the construction costs will be lower. Those segments of our community benefit from this particular change. And so this change should be well supported. We complain that we have a housing crisis. We complain that we have reduction in inventory. And so when we do things that are deliberately designed to support investment and development in a space where we have need, it should be commended. If the government has done an analysis and says that we can't go all the way to zero because that's currently not what our fiscal capacity allows, then it should be at least acknowledged that we are making a meaningful step in the right direction. It should be meaningfully acknowledged that we have consulted with the business community who have requested these changes, and we have acquiesced to those requests by facilitating the change through changing our legislation and rates. The second would be elimination of duty on all motor vehicle parts. We ask ourselves, whom does that benefit? It benefits the residents who are required to make maintenance and repairs on their vehicles, who will now make lower payments. I heard the chirping by the Honorable Member Fay, who says because of our bad roads. However, maintenance and repair on vehicles transcends any challenges we may be having with our roads. And if you find yourself in the unfortunate position where you get in an accident that has absolutely nothing to do with our roads, this change still supports you. And so what we do is we take into consideration what the community is saying and we adjust to it. Just like when there was a removal of a ferry route, I then saw the Honorable Member Fay in the newspaper applauding the government for restoration of that very same ferry. You know why? Because the residents complained and we responded. So we have a track record of where we understand where there's pain points and adequately responding. That is what this government is expected to do. And so we're making those adjustments. We are also lowering the duty rate on air-conditioned units and parts. A lot of us can empathize with coming up in an environment where we didn't have air conditions in our homes. I had two misfortunes. You see, when you stay across the street from the dump, you don't have the luxury. I heard the Honorable Member Dakudo laughing because I stayed across the street from the dump.
Point of order. Point of order. The honorable minister is misleading the House. He doesn't know what I was laughing about, and there was some sidebar conversation on an unrelated topic. I know he's the speaker, but not everything is revolving around him today, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, it may be misplaced laughter, I'll accept that. But for the residents who lived on Parsons Road, like I lived on Parsons Road, this is not a laughing matter. Because not only did we have the dump, but there was a stream at the bottom of the dump called the Poon. And on a hot summer day, the Poon emitted an odor that if your windows were left open in your house during a hot summer day, you enter your house and you think that a rodent had died and decayed in your house. So our windows were closed on hot summer days without the luxury of central air conditioning. Now we advance from that particular space where we did get window units. And unfortunately, because I had a window unit on the ground level, I learned the hard way of having a window unit on the ground level of Parsons Road, where somebody kicked in my window unit, got into my house, took all my valuables, and walked right back out of that window. So this is the reality. But had the duty rates been lower on air conditioning units and air conditioning parts, we may have been able to get central air conditioning, which didn't require a window unit, which would have allowed us to keep our windows closed to protect us from the stench of the Poon, but also keep our houses safe from persons who are prepared to kick in our window units. I then later learned that those window units are more expensive when it comes to your electricity rates. And so I'm pleased now when I see that when government is reducing the duty on the fuel associated with our electricity, it also provides relief to those individuals. But I ask, whom benefits from these changes? And I'm left with the only conclusion, and that is the people of Bermuda benefit from these changes. And we don't discriminate whom those people actually are. When I look at the next measure, when we providing duty relief to the hospital, we have a mantra that we want to see accessible and affordable hospital and healthcare for all. This takes us a step further in that direction. The hospital caters to almost the entire residential population. It also caters to the visitors to our shores. The entire country collectively benefits from us easing some of the financial pressures on the hospital. The Premier indicated that altogether the relief that we're providing to the citizens of Bermuda equates to more than $45 million. $45 million. It has to be viewed from a lens where the government has positioned itself to be able to provide relief to the residents of Bermuda. And while the honorable members on the other side may oppose extending the duty relief at the airport,
Point of order. The minister is misleading the House. We did not say we oppose. In fact, I started my response in this debate specifically saying we support this bill. But we did suggest that they could have considered a different approach. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
His point was, he said that the persons opposite may oppose the duty relief, right, not the bill. He means something specific.
the honorable member Fay stood to his feet and opposed the relief to the residents of the people of Bermuda. And
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I literally stood to my feet and said we support.
He made reference to not yourself, to the other member. The other member said he was supported the bill, but he was opposed to a particular piece of the bill. That's all he made reference to. He just pointed out the piece that you made reference to, that you were opposed to.
we have to operate with some level of integrity in this house, Mr. Speaker. It's not, you cannot stand to your feet, oppose something, and then when somebody highlights that you've opposed relief to the residents of Bermuda, you're trying to draw back from that. The reality is we have a different point of view on that particular piece. I know that my residents, my constituents, will be happy to take advantage of greater relief when traveling back from abroad. Sometimes persons travel abroad to get goods because there is a lack of availability of those goods on island. This is not necessarily to reduce the successfulness of our retail sector, because we've put other measures in place that actually support our retail sector. It is this government's desire for a vibrant retail sector. So much so that we're focused on embarking on putting a framework in place, which we will consider to be our national entrepreneurship strategy, which promotes small and medium-sized enterprises in Bermuda. But we have given relief where relief has been requested from our retailers. And so when you look at this entirety as a package, you have to say this government has taken practical steps to reduce the cost of living. And then you say, how are they able to do that? They are able to do that because they've created a level of fiscal capacity. What is actually heartwarming to me about this relief that we'll provide now, it's on top of us relief that we have provided over the last 7 years while in government. So the Premier highlighted, and it was also highlighted last time he was in this honorable house, in terms of what we have done for the workers in terms of reduction of payroll tax for those that are working. How we've increased the minimum wage for those who are working. Two measures that benefit the workers of this country directly. And if you're unfortunate enough to be unemployed and you need assistance, we have also increased the eligibility and benefits that one can receive through financial assistance. I don't know how the actions of this government cannot be viewed as ones which are human-centered and in the best interest of the residents of Bermuda. As I move on, this is not the first time we've amended duty rates. We highlighted essential food items and we've reduced the cost and the duty associated with those essential food items. Whom does that change benefit? It benefits the residents of Bermuda. It benefits the families of Bermuda. It benefits mothers of Bermuda who are trying to feed their kids. This government has been responsive. We've done a lot, and we have a lot more to do. I think that when we come here, we have a responsibility to the constituents that elect us here to make the argument as it pertains to whether or not the changes benefit those constituents or not. And I'll challenge any member of the opposition to stand up and say, I oppose these changes because they do not benefit the constituents whom elected me in this house. I can support that argument if they have came to the conclusion that this does not support their constituents. But they can't. So when persons oppose, I ask, on what basis? If they're here to represent their constituents and their constituents will benefit from the change, on what basis is the opposition coming from? It is not based on the sound principles of good governance. I spoke about the minimum wage, and we will come back to this house, like with other tax changes, to progress the minimum wage even further. I done a national economic update, and I highlighted that in every industrial sector in Bermuda, employment income was up. I continue to hear things about things surrounding a stagnant economy. But that's far from the reality of our economic situation. And so our economy is growing. Government finances are stable. Don't take my word for it, Mr. Speaker. Standard & Poor's recently released a report as pertains to their independent assessment of where we are as a country. I did not hear the negativity that is spewed and the rhetoric in that report that is spewed when I come to this house and the opposition paints the picture of where we are. I saw sound and stable government policies. I saw words such as responsive. I saw our rating and our outlook remain stable with no grave area of concern. You know why? Because we are on the right track. Bermuda continues to be a high performance jurisdiction. We continue to punch above our weight level in a number of areas. I, for one, Mr. Speaker, am proud to be a Bermudian. I am proud to be a member of the Progressive Labour Party, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing to support the residents of Bermuda. And as a result of that, I wholeheartedly support the changes which are in front of this honorable house today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? MP Pearman?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's interesting that this debate and the other one on Wednesday over tax issues have become rather fractious. So I'm going to try and just take the heat out of this a little bit and be a little bit more measured. And you will be delighted to hear as well, Mr. Speaker, that I intend to be brief.
Yes, I am
I
delighted.
just have
by that.
2 points of principle that I wish to make. The second one rising perhaps unwisely to the hook that the Honorable Minister put in the water, but he's asked for an answer and I'll give him one. And that's my second point, but let me deal with it first. Mr. Speaker, this is not a bill of staggering complexity. It's a bill about tariffs, and that is duty relief, and that is taxes, right? So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about taxes. And the first point of principle I want to make, because it got lost, I think, in the shuffle a little bit earlier before lunch, was the very valid point that was made about transparency and good governance. When we come up here, all of us, to look at tax legislation and to impose taxes upon our fellow citizens and upon ourselves, we must be transparent about what we're doing. And therefore, when there is a schedule to a bill that is less than transparent, it is perfectly proper for anyone in this House to say, hang on a second, I can't tell what's going on from this schedule. And it's perfectly proper for anyone in this House to invite the government, because they're the government, we're just the opposition, to do better. Now, one of the speakers earlier said, well, that's how we've always done it. And doubtless that speaker was right. And that speaker said, well, that's how the OBA used to do it too. And again, doubtless that speaker is right. I wasn't around then. But the fact that it's always been done like that doesn't mean that that's how we have to always do it. Let's dare to be better. Let's dare to pass legislation that when an ordinary member of the public wants to see if his or her tariff duty on the item that's trying to support their retail shop is going up or going down, they can tell. Now that's not actually hard to achieve. You put one extra column in that schedule saying what the duty is, and the column saying what the duty is going to be. Now, I can understand why some governments might not want that. If the duty's going up, they may not want to be attacked for the duty going up. But if the duty's going down, they may wish to be praised for the duty going down. And so that's why I make the point of principle about transparency. If you can tell, if you're not, you don't have to be, you shouldn't have to be a lawyer to look at a law that we pass to understand it. So it is fair to all Bermudians to know, is the tariff on this item going up? Is the tariff on this item going down? And so I would invite whoever is in charge of these things, be it the government, be it the civil service, be it this particular department or ministry, to just bear that in mind. And next time, let's try and have a schedule where we see what it was and what it becomes. So that's the first point of 2 points of principle. And I would respectfully say that it's a point that should echo with this government, because, of course, this government has been talking about fairness. So what could be more fair than being transparent to the people so they can understand the legislation we are passing? The second and final point of principle, Mr. Speaker, is about the idea of passing on tax relief. Because there was a big debate, and I appreciate that there are differences of philosophy and there are differences in policy, but it is a point of principle. If you're going to grant relief, you can do it in one of 2 ways. You can grant relief across the board, everybody gets a tax cut, or you can be targeted in your relief. You can ask yourself, who really needs this tax cut? And how can we make sure that the person who really needs it is getting this benefit? So those are 2 philosophically different approaches to taxes. And on this side, we are saying that where this government, and we're not the government, probably won't be for a while, but where this government, and I hear from the Honorable future Premier Zane De Silva that got that right, he said. So where this government decides to give greater relief to Bermudians, and where this government has the benefit of the support of the opposition, as it has had over this bill and the last one, to give relief, It is not criticism or unwarranted criticism or unreasonable criticism for the opposition to point out that perhaps the tax relief, when given and supported by us, should be more focused, should be more targeted. Why? Because if you target relief to those who need it most, you can give them more relief. And that is the point, with respect, that MP DeCudo was making, that there are people on our island who do not need certain tax breaks. And there are people on our island who absolutely need those tax breaks. And I've just been asked by the Honorable Minister Jason Hayward, who determines that. And the answer is the government. The answer is the government, right? So the old saying, the government, opposition gets its say, the government gets its way. Listen, the Honorable Minister, MP Jason Hayward, who spoke before me, invited us to respond as a point of principle, and I'm doing that. And if he wishes to disagree with me, that's fine. If he wishes to say, no, all cuts should be across the board because we should treat everybody equally and everyone should get a cut, that's fine, if that's his point of principle. But I'm respectfully disagreeing with that argument. My argument is that you focus on the people who need the help most. And if you only focus on them, you can give them more help. You can expand the amount of help being given to those who need it rather than taking some of that money away and giving it to people who really don't need it. That is the philosophical argument. And I hope, I know that the Honorable Minister understands that argument. I know that the Honorable Minister understands that argument. And so when we come again, and I'm sure this government has said they're going to come again and give more tax cuts. Great. And you'll get our support if it's well-intentioned. But let's try to target those who need it most and ensure that they get more benefit, because we don't need to be giving tax cuts to the very wealthy on this island, frankly. We don't. One last point before I take my seat, and it's still on the second point of principle. One of the discussions being had here is around the retail sector and what the retail and the Honorable Minister is not taking the time to listen to the point I'm making. And I'd invite him to do so respectfully. Since he asked me to answer the question, and since I've answered it, he might want to just at least consider what I'm saying. So the retail sector, they need help. They need a lot of help. I don't know what sort of consultation was done with the retail sector, but I would imagine that most people in the retail sector of Bermuda are not delighted that we can go and shop overseas and bring more things in and get greater customs duty relief. And when I say we, I mean everybody. So everybody now is going to get a bigger break at the airport. And I really doubt very much that the retail sector of Bermuda is going to have said, that's a great idea. I have a feeling they would have said, well, actually, do we have to do that? Couldn't we do this in some other way? Couldn't we give us a bigger break on imports of the particular things that these Bermudian businesses, these Bermudian small retail businesses, medium-sized retail businesses are bringing in? So again, it's a point of principle. It's a point of political philosophy. We may not agree. The minister may not agree with me, but we believe that we need to help. We just think, let's be targeted. Let's help those who need the help the most, and let's give them more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Premier, would you like to add a few?
I would, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. The honorable member just took a seat. I believe he just said, let's try to help those that need it most. Did I get that right? You did. He's shaking his head and saying, yes. Those that, you're right. Those that need it, let's see that those that need it most get it. Let me remind the honorable member, in 2012, when they came into power, the first thing they done in the House, the first session, Mr. Speaker, was change the staggered future care premiums that we had in place so that those that could least afford it paid the less. They changed it so that everyone in the country wanted paying the same amount. Now, this is the same people that are now saying to do just the opposite. You see, so you see, Mr. Speaker, what this tells me is an old saying comes to mind, and it's called grandstanding. It's grandstanding.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member who was referring to me and precisely what I said, has now just impugned an improper motive. What? Well, perhaps he'd care to clarify who he meant was grandstanding.
Mr. Speaker, certainly you've been here long enough to know when someone's grandstanding. And I'll tell you what, from where we sit, it's a lot of grandstanding been taking place in the last 24 hours. So, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order.
Thank you. The member has now clarified that he was referring to us and was referring to me the last 24 hours, and he's impugning an improper motive, which he should not do.
Member, when you speak, just remember the members are entitled to their opinion on
Yes.
different viewpoints.
Yes.
And that view may differ from your view of the matter, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Well, let me clarify that. My view is that some of the members opposite use this house on many occasions to grandstand. And I'm going to leave it right there. Now, Mr. Speaker, I find it rather rich. When I hear members opposite say some of the things they say. In particular, the member that just took his seat. Because, Mr. Speaker, we had a long debate last session that should have been 5 minutes about $6. For the honorable members next door on the other side to talk about helping those that need it most, and we should be doing this, we should be doing that. Imagine what we could do for the people of this country with $250 million we've spent and still spending at Morgan's Point. 250 million counting. And the honorable member Craig Cannoneer should be the last person to mention anything to do with airports. Or music studios too, because I think he had his hand in that. So the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, is that
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Did I hear the honorable member just say that I was involved in the music studio? I just want to make sure I'm hearing correct. This point of order, he's completely misguiding the House. Neither was I nowhere near it.
a point of order, Mr. Speaker. I never said that.
Yes, sir, but you just
So
said
that's
it.
a
You
point of
did
order.
say that.
No, I did
That's
not
exactly
say it.
what you said.
Member, wait.
No, I did not say that.
Member,
No, I did not.
look. Members, we're fresh in the afternoon. Let's keep it at a tune where we don't get out of here. I'm still talking.
Oh, okay, sir.
We had a reasonable morning. Let's have a reasonable afternoon. You got some points to make on the topic of the bill? Speak to the topic of the bill, leave the others out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would gladly do that, Mr. Speaker. But I think it's important that the people of this country never forget, when we're talking about helping the vulnerable, helping those that need it in this country, the 250 million and counting of the very same taxpayers in which we speak about today are paying. Here as we sit, the clock is ticking. In fact, before today is over, I'm going to work out what it is per minute that we pay, because it's substantial, Mr. Speaker. It's substantial. So with that said, Mr. Speaker, let me emphasize the points which were made earlier from this side of the House, is that these tax reductions, I am looking forward to them driving this economy and helping the people of this country. And it may start from $6, but it could end up at $600, and that could be per month. It could be $6,000 for a month, Mr. Speaker, depending on what we use these additional tax cuts for. So as the Premier is going to continue to bring these deductions, as he did in the pre-budget, bring them to this House for passage, look forward to us helping the people that need it most in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. Does any other member, MP Kennedy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues, good afternoon, and to the listening public. Let me be as balanced as I should be. As I should be. The interpolating's already started. Certainly, I do support this. But what I will do is clarify that in some of the comments that have been made and who this invariably is helping, I will say that my constituents probably are some of those who spend a lot of money importing goods from above across the ocean, I should say, not above, but across the ocean. So any kind of relief in that matter, they would welcome. As I said, they probably spend more time flying than many of us who averagely fly, maybe once or twice. So they certainly will take advantage of the opportunity. And I think the whole idea of maybe a targeted approach doesn't fall by the wayside on anyone. There is opportunity. Now, the government has decided that this is the first tier of opportunity that they would like to take, and I take note of that. But I also take note of the fact that reducing diesel prices is not certainly going to fix the soot that's on people's roofs. So we've got some big problems here that we need to resolve. And I also recognize that when I hear the comments about small businesses, I've said it many times in this house, we may be reducing tariffs and duty, but the biggest problem that small to medium-sized businesses have at the end of the day is cash flow. And so we need to be looking at the opportunities to relieve that, because if we don't fix the cash flow for them to survive, which they are already in debt, those who have been able to survive up until now, they have no real way of being able to pay their debt back. And the relief may be one way of approaching it, but one of the other ways that we need to approach this situation is we need to improve the economy so that it is growing at a faster rate than our debt is for people and businesses. They've got to pay
Point
back.
of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
I hate to interrupt the honorable member, as him and I have a good relationship. But what he just said was that we need to ensure the economy is growing faster than debt. And guess what? That is exactly what is taking place in Bermuda.
Thank you. So yeah. That's what we're talking. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that's exactly. I preface it all by small to medium-sized business. So my challenge is this: is that they're in debt and they're unable to get to a point where they are at zero. I did say, and I qualified my statement, these tariffs will help. But the cash flow problem is where they will go out of business. And unless we fix that problem, we're going to continue to have to go to an almost point of zero tariff, zero duty on things, because we're trying to help people rather than getting the economy and whatever it takes to boost the economy at a rate that can keep them surviving and keep cash flow growing. And so the premier has stood up and he says, we have a good relationship. I know and understand what it means to be a small and a medium-sized business owner. Certainly not a large business owner, but I know what it's like to have to meet payroll when that time comes and things are tough. And despite the fact that we've reduced tariffs, the challenge is that we still can't keep up. And that's today's reality. So on the one hand, there's this one part of the relief, but on the other hand, I believe that we can do more to grow the economy. Am I saying to the government that they're not under the numbers that they have presented, that we're not looking better? Certainly. But I do recall a time coming along when I was a student, I could pay for my tuition school fees because I was getting paid well to mow grass for people in the summertime and pay for my sister's school fees. We're not at that point anymore right now. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to have a position whereby the private businesses, which is what these tariffs are for, essentially outside of the hospital, are to help. But what we need to do is find a way to get more money into small to medium-sized businesses, which invariably means more money into the private citizens' pockets, and we will have a much more healthier position. So what I'd like to hear more about is, rather than getting, we're talking about fuel and diesels and these kinds of things. And I wanted to say about the fuel thing, the Premier brought up the issue of the fuel, but when the fuel concessions came first to Bermuda, when we were going through COVID, and the fuel companies decided to collectively say, okay, we're going to offer relief. So, sorry? So the fuel company offered to government relief. It was to hold the price of fuel. The Premier made a statement about it. I was a part of it, so I know what I'm talking about. Maybe the Premier is not sure, but when the prices went up, when the prices were about to go up, I can't remember the exact year, and I'll have to look at it. The insurance companies sat down with the minister and said, okay, well, we can put some relief in place. We'll give a fuel company. We can put some relief in place, but that relief had to be paid back. So you might have gotten a relief for 2 to 3 months. The public might have gotten a relief for 2 to 3 months on their fuel, but that relief, the public still had to pay back.
Mr.
Okay,
Speaker,
so Mr.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. I sincerely hate to interrupt this, but he is completely misleading the House and completely misrepresenting what took place. In 2022, upon my return to the Ministry of Finance, I found that fuel prices went up on something under the authorization of the Minister of Finance without coming across my desk. I went to the technical officers and I said there will be no more fuel increases. And we came up with a fuel pricing mechanism which reduced the taxes on gasoline fuel that was imported into the country. And no one has had to pay that back. That has come out of our customs tariff revenue. So the honorable member should withdraw that statement. It is factually incorrect. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but it cannot be for fuel at the pump. That was not a discussion with the fuel companies. We said this is the action which we're taking, and we said we are going to reduce the taxes and we are not going to move the cap. It is going to go down. That is what happened. There was no funds that needed to be paid back.
Mr. Speaker, I will provide you with that letter with the relevant government ministers on it, for sure.
All right.
For sure.
We'll leave it there until we get.
Oh, yeah, for
to the end
sure.
of it. Yes.
For sure. We'll call that out for sure. I was in that meeting.
Okay.
So then we start talking. I heard some comments being made about the roads as well, and the relief for parts for cars and the likes, and rightfully so. I think that we should be implementing some kind of tariff relief when it comes to cars, especially with the situation that we are right now with the roads. On May 24th, as I watched TNN on their bike the whole way up from St. George's, it was visual. You could actually see the challenges with the roads as the runners were going up and the cyclists and the likes. And then the Premier talked about the amount of monies that was being put aside for road works. Well, I must say that the amount of monies that were put aside for road works is really no different than what was put aside the previous year. And in the previous year, Mr. Speaker, we only spent half of that money on the roads. So if we're going to put $5 million to road works, and we want to spend that money.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
I accept where the honorable member is coming from, but I think that it's important that people would hear that only
is that
$2.5
point
million. It is misleading the House. That $2.5
That's a point of
million
information.
No,
I
no,
didn't
no.
accept the
No,
point of information.
misleading the
I
House,
did
Mr.
not.
Speaker.
No, I'm not.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honorable member is misleading the House.
Okay, state your point of order now.
He's misleading the House. Persons who would have heard what the honorable member said would have heard that we have not spent $5 million in roadworks. That is not correct. The fact is that because the roadworks are done and because there are reimbursements that happen, the total value of work that was done last year is far in excess of $5 million that is recorded in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. as I looked at the budget book, we can certainly go and take a look in the budget book and look on the line item of roadworks. 5 million was allotted for roadworks, and 2 point something million was spent. The number there. So, you know, the premier can say what he wants, but the budget book does stipulate that. Now he's trying to bring in, you know, invoices coming in for all of these other things. The book specifically states that we're now going to put another 5 million to the roadworks. And quite frankly, for the next year, I'm not sure we're going to be able to reach the level that the government is saying. So I hope that people, quite frankly, with the challenges that we are having, the businesses take advantage of this relief on the parts. But at the same time, I'm not sure that the private sector, at the end of the day, with the way that the situation is going to benefit a whole lot at the end of the year because of this here. Parts are already here. You know how long it takes to get parts in Bermuda. You got to sit here and wait for Lord knows how many months to just get something here. So we might appreciate the fact that the relief is being put here, but for the next fiscal year, let's just be clear. We'll be talking about this next year and how much the roads hasn't gotten done. I mean, we're still waiting for this asphalt plant to get up. Won't be here until 2026. And we're hoping that it's here in the first quarter, but that deadline keeps changing and changing and changing. So if I go off of the record, as some of our government says, on how they're doing so wonderful, if I go off of the record of just roadworks alone, that thing's not coming anytime soon because it keeps getting changed. And so I appreciate this bill and the attempt that it is doing. And hopefully the relief that gets to people will reach them in a feasible time. We're already at May. So we're already almost a quarter behind time. Let's see what happens. But what I can guarantee is this, is that unless we start growing the economy so that people can get out of particular, who are trying to improve at a faster rate, we're still going to be given more and more and more relief. Now, to anyone that will be interested in the island and investing in the island when it comes to the local economy is struggling. It is struggling. And we see a lot of relief going into place. I have been saying year after year after year, the challenge is cash flow. And we haven't fixed it. We still haven't fixed it. I see it firsthand. It hasn't been fixed. It's getting worse. And the banks are not friendly. It takes you, my goodness, you got the money, some people. It takes you more than almost a year just to get a mortgage sorted out. So we in some serious challenges here going forward. And so I'm praying that people can make it throughout this next year with these reliefs. I know it sounds good when we list off all of these wonderful things for relief, and especially in the construction industry. Yeah, we can put all these things in. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? We just heard how many days it's taking for applications. So this year might not even, this stuff might not even come to fruition for those who are putting in an application to build a house because it's going to take that long. So I'm identifying that you're doing one part, yes, but there's a whole nother part of it that's connected. And I'm just asking the government as it moves along, there's another part here, which is what some of my colleagues are saying. We need to move with some more pace on helping relieve Bermuda by improving the economy, because that way, now when I say, let me qualify that, when I say improve the economy, by speeding up the pace of the improvement of this economy so that people can pay their salaries, right? So that people can, listen, Bermuda, Mr. Speaker, Bermuda wants to pay its way. They're not necessarily, the only reason they're looking for relief is because they're struggling. So that is an admittance, if the government is having to do this, that people are struggling. That's the reality. I'm not knocking the government because of this here. It is a reality. If we were doing wonderful, I'm not sure all of these reliefs will be coming in place. My assessment and my opinion is we're seeing these reliefs because they're hearing from the people, as we heard from government already. They're doing this because our people are struggling, they're hurting. So they got to do some stuff. That's what they're saying. So we still got issues to solve. And I tell you what, the best social program I heard from an honorable minister that used to be in the House is a job, and a well-paying job. And so that's the other part of this equation. I support this bill. I believe that this relief is needed, and I believe this relief is needed because people are struggling. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Cannoneer. Before I call on anyone else, I just like to acknowledge in the gallery the former member of this House, former opposition leader, Mr. Carl Simons. Welcome to the chamber this afternoon. Good. Any other member like to make a contribution at this time? None other, Junior Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm convinced whatever this government does will never satisfy the opposition. Never satisfy the opposition. A government from 2012 to 2017, they talk about we listened and we heard and we're doing something about it. They heard the same voices, Mr. Speaker, the whole 5 years and never did anything about it, but increased taxes year after year after year. We are here, we have heard the cry, and we're doing something about it. And that's a difference. And that's a difference. That's why you're sitting on that side and we're sitting on this side, because we're listening and making things happen. Mr. Speaker, for those individuals, just give you a few different points. Mr. Speaker, slate will go from 25% down to 10%. Paint will go down from 15% down to 10%. Don't you think people want to hear that? Sinks, you buy a sink, it will go from 25% down to 10%. Wash basins, 25 cents down to 10 cents. Doors, 25% down to 10 cents. There is a decrease and is affecting the individuals that are going to do constructions. These are great benefits. So we spent so much time trying to convince a party of that side who seems they're not satisfied. They complain about the $6, but we're giving more and they're still complaining. I don't understand it. Where are you satisfied? Mr. Speaker, this government will continue to listen, and this will continue to make decisions. We'll continue to deliver real results for the people of Bermuda. So, Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be committed.
Thank you, Junior Minister. Deputy Speaker, would you like to take the chair?
It has been moved that the bill entitled the Customs Tariff Amendment Act 2025 be committed. Is that approved? Yes. I call on the Junior Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that all clauses be moved.
It has been moved that we consider all clauses together. Any objections? There are none. Continue, Junior Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill seeks to amend the first and fifth schedule to the Customs Tariff Act 1970. The Principal Act. Clause 1 provides the citation of the bill. Clause 2 repeals and replaces the first schedule to the Customs Tariff Act 1970 by the content of the schedule to this bill. The first schedule is published on the Bermuda Government Portal at the following website, www.government.bm/schedules Customs Tariff Act 1970. Clause 3 amends the first schedule to the Customs Act 1970 by repealing and replacing CPC 4240, hospital operating supplies, and by amending CPC 4703, goods to tariff code 2710.192 diesels, and CPC 4705, goods of tariff codes 2710.194 fuel oil. And clause 4 provides the commencement of the bill. Thank you, Ms. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the clauses? I recognize the member from constituency 25. Member, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Madam Deputy Speaker, regarding clauses 3, subclauses 3 and subclauses 4, the diesel and fuel oils. Was there any consideration to do a graduated or a progressive way of looking at this tax that could have been adjusted so that this duty relief could have been adjusted according to usage? Thank you.
Thank you. Junior Minister? Is there a point of clarification needed?
There is, yes.
I recognize the Premier from constituency 18. Member, could you clarify your question so that it can be
Yes,
answered?
referring to the bill, Madam Deputy Speaker,
Okay.
the clauses I referenced adjust the tariff code on diesel and fuel oil usage respectively down from 8 cents per liter to 4 cents per liter. My understanding, this of course flows through into your Belco bill fuel adjustment rate and is much touted by the government as a tax saving to the end user of electricity on this island. It is also well understood that those who have the privilege and the luck to have the larger, more expensive houses and run a lot of air conditioners and use a lot of electricity will have the same duty break, the same rate change from 8 cents down to 4 cents per liter will flow through into their bill, which will by necessity be much larger than someone who perhaps makes less money and is in a smaller house and uses less electricity. My question is, did the government consider a mechanism by which those who use the most electricity might perhaps not get the same reduction as those who use the least electricity and perhaps struggled the most to pay their electric bill? Thank you, Madam.
Thank
Deputy
you,
Speaker.
Member. I recognize the Premier from constituency 18. Premier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I tried to explain this in the full House. I'll try to explain it to the honorable member again, but I know the honorable member is, trying to play to the media and try to say X, Y, and Z. So let me help him out. Number one, the way that these taxes are done is a question of imports. What he is suggesting is an entire remake of a tax importation system, which will not make sense. Number one. Number two, the reason why custom tariffs are amazing is because they are simple and easy to collect. We have one person versus the other mechanisms of which he's speaking about. The second thing, which I am certain the honorable member is aware of, is that when it comes to retail tariffs for residential customers, those who use less actually pay less, not just because they consume less, because under 700 kilowatt per hours, it is a lower rate, and then it goes up, and then it goes up to those persons be more. So that is being done. And the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, who is responsible where we saw matters, has written to the regulatory authority for further matters to look at how we can better address it. So I understand what the Honorable Member is saying, but people listening to him would think that the government, everyone is paying the same. That is not correct. The retail tariff methodology means that persons who consume less do pay less, and as they do more, the kilowatt hour charge on those rates go higher and higher and higher. So in fact, the persons who, exactly, there are bans. Yes. So the people who are large consumers of electricity are paying more. So the truth is that the overall reduction affects and impacts those at the lower level to a higher extent than it does to those in the upper level. So what he's asking to be achieved is actually achieved through the mechanisms that exist.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from constituency 25. You have the floor.
Madam Chair. I actually didn't ask for any particular thing to be achieved. I asked if the government had considered that, which I believe the answer is no, they did not, because it is complicated. That's my takeaway. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
Thank you, member. I recognize the member from constituency 18, the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Chair, I would sincerely hope that this honorable member would come up with new tactics, because his tactics are very predictable. The reality is that the reason why he's posing consider is because I think he already knows the answer. And it goes back to what the honorable member said, that sometimes the speeches which are made are for the effect outside rather than actually dealing with the policy here. Because if the honorable member was serious about the policy here, he would note and understand what I said. because during the general debate, they said to ensure that those persons who may be able to afford less are able to benefit from this relief. And the explanation that I just gave with the way that retail tariffs are done on electricity means that the impact will be greater for those at the lower level. But it is across the board on the fuel adjustment rate. So it also affects the small businesses, the same ones that the honorable member from constitution number 12 was talking about in regards to cash flow. It applies across the board. It is important when we're talking about electricity rates, but the retail tariff methodology
It's different.
does have lower rates for those persons with lower consumption to encourage lower consumption as well.
Yes. Thank you, Premier. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the clauses? There being none, I call on the junior minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the preamble be approved.
It ha-
I-
Yes.
didn't I-
yes.
Sorry, I thought I did move it. I move the clauses.
You moved them for consideration.
Yeah, I
Yes.
move all the clauses to be passed. Ms.
It has been moved that the clauses be approved. Are there any objections? There are none, so approved. Continue.
I move the preamble be approved.
It has, the schedule, you're moving the schedule? We'll do the preamble, but we also need to do the schedule. It has been moved that the preamble be approved. Are there any objections? There are none. Continue, Junior Minister.
I will,
You move
I'll
that
move,
the-
I'll move the schedules also.
Yes.
Yep.
It has been moved that the schedules be approved. Are there any objections? There are none, so approved. One more. You move that the
Report to the
right.
House as printed.
Thank you. It has been moved that the bill be reported to the House as printed. Are there any objections to that? There are none, so approved. Can I have this one? Okay.
Members, are there any objection to the bill entitled the Customs Tariff Amendment Act 2025 being reported to the House as printed? There are none. The matter has been reported as printed. Thank you, members, for your participation in that matter. We'll now move on to the second item to debate it this afternoon, which is the second reading of the Land Tax Amendment Act 2025. In the name of the Premier, is the Premier or Junior Minister doing it? Junior
I will
Minister
do
will be
it.
carrying
I was,
this one as
yes,
well?
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Junior Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with the governor's recommendation, I move that the bill entitled the Land Tax Amendment Act 2025 be now read the second time.
Any objections? None. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, today I am presenting to this honorable House the Land Tax Amendment Act 2025. This bill will amend the Land Tax Act 1967 by decreasing the base rate tax for residential units, another tax reduction. Mr. Speaker, as I stated, as the Minister of Finance stated in the budget speech, Bermuda's land tax is a significant revenue earner for the government, but also represents a burden for homeowners and renters alike. In 2019, a new base rate was introduced and set at $300 a year. Given the island's fiscal progress, more tax relief can be provided. The government will reduce the base rate of land tax from $300 per year to $150. This reduction will apply to all homeowners and renters who pay land tax. Mr. Speaker, as honorable members are aware, annual land tax is managed in two periods, from July 1st to December 31st and January 1st to June 30th each year. The proposed change to the land tax base rate will go into effect as of January 1st, 2026. This ensures that the Office of Tax Commission has sufficient time to make the necessary adjustment to billing amounts and notices to be provided to impact homeowners. Mr. Speaker, we hear the cries from our people who are finding it difficult to navigate our economic landscape and offer assistance as we can. Once again, listening to the people, Mr. Speaker, this reduction will assist all homeowners and renters. I also add, Mr. Speaker, that the majority of the workforce, which we can safely assume safely assume also includes a number of homeowners. I have seen their taxes decrease in prior fiscal years. Having done this and achieved balance, we believe that this is the right time to provide further relief. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Junior Ministers. Any other member? The Shadow Minister of Finance?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe it was stated by the Premier that they know what questions I'm going to ask. So I would have hoped they perhaps could address them in the brief so we could just get through all this. But listen, we support this. We support this, Mr. Speaker, but I want to talk about the base rate. And I guess the question is, or the suggestion to the government is, why is everybody getting this break on the base rate? Again, it's the same principle which we discussed of targeting the relief to those who need it most. Now, Mr. Speaker, I was able to get a copy of the valuation list that's publicly available. Perhaps I had an out-of-date copy, I don't know. But by my assessment, about 55% of the residential ARVs fall underneath the rent control threshold. Also, based on the number of units in the valuation list, again, my estimate of what this tax relief is costing the government is about $9 to $10 million. Perhaps the government could clarify what that cost is. But if you think about that, Mr. Speaker, that means about half of that $9 to $10 million, if that break is being given to people above the rent control ARV threshold. Now, we could have a spirited debate about if you didn't want to give everybody this $150 a year break, where would you draw the line? And that would be an interesting debate. But I would submit to you, Mr. Speaker, and to the government, that there is probably a line of ARVs where this break will not impact people that much, whereas underneath that line, the people impacted could have enjoyed and benefited in a much more meaningful way, a larger break. Now, I won't get into it anymore because, of course, I think we've all fully discussed the principles behind that, Mr. Speaker. So I look forward to the government's, but as I said, we do support, and I did think I had one or two questions in there as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank
Minister
you.
for Cabinet, would
Thank
like
you.
to make a contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know my colleague next to me referenced grandstanding, Mr. Speaker. I think for the listening public, I think the definition of grandstanding is important here. The definition, according to Cambridge, is acting or speaking in a way intended to attract the good opinion of others who may be watching. And we definitely get to see this on a regular basis, Mr. Speaker. I do know that that member has not been a member of this House for that long. I do know that he prides himself in being the intellectual financial guru that all of us wish we could be, Mr. Speaker. I am old enough around here, Mr. Speaker, to understand when we first bought the changes to land tax, and I'm sure my honorable member who introduced this bill will be able to talk to this when he does reply, that when we did bring this, we heard the same argument. But Mr. Speaker, the changes that we made then greatly affect the persons at the higher end of the ARV listing than the people at the lower end. This was put in place to, in fact, to in fact give relief back then when it was dropped to $300, the base rate, to give relief to almost, and I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, almost 70%, 70 to 80% of the people paid less than what they'd ever paid before, while the people at the upper end paid almost double of what they were paying before. So, Mr. Speaker, doing this creates even more relief for those persons at the lower end, unfortunately. And so I would ask that member to go back, and I know that he's really good at looking at Hansard, to go back and when we first debated this, because this brings relief to almost the vast majority of persons that pay. Not, as he said, 50% are under the threshold and 50% above. It doesn't actually work that way. Because if you look at the bands, it works on bands. And so there are persons now that now pay $600 a month, $600 a year, will now pay $300. That's $300 more that they did not have. And that's all they will pay. But The bands above that are not affected, and the way they are staggered is they increase exponentially as you go up. So the people at the top of the list still pay a heck of a lot more than the people at the bottom of the list, Mr. Speaker. And so I'm actually, and I mentioned the grandstanding because we spent a lot of time in the last debate, and I'm not reflecting to that debate, but the member from 25 was speaking about, why don't we do the tax relief on persons who fall with under the rent control? We didn't hear that argument now because everybody under rent control will see a $300 difference this year. Everyone, and they will not pay a dime more. That's significant. Everybody above the rent control ARV will still pay more. So I don't know, it was good enough to mention before, but it's not good enough to mention to argue now. Again, I'm assuming that's where my learned my friend next to me gets the term grandstanding
Point of
from,
order,
because it sounds like
Mr.
grandstanding.
Speaker.
Point of order.
I do believe the honorable minister may be a little confused because my understanding is this bill impacts the base rate, and that base rate applies to all land taxpayers. So in fact, even at the higher bands, the discount in this bill would be received, is my understanding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that non-point of order, because I did say that it affects everybody when I was speaking.
Well, he was just clarifying, but go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, but this once again is tax relief that people will greatly appreciate, and especially I know when I go out and canvass, Mr. Speaker, because I have a lot of in my little constituency in C13, we have a lot of landowners, and we have persons who rent, and we have a lot of units that are under that threshold ARV. So they will greatly accept that they're going to pay $300 less per month. This will puts more money in our renters' pockets to go out and spend in the economy, because they're not paying that. Some people do charge the tenants the land tax. The persons who do not charge, the persons who are living in their own home, that's $300 more that they have. And I do believe that when we look at this from its entirety, I mean, we went from a previous debate arguing that, $6, and we said it all adds up. Now we're up to, according to this, we're now up to $306, $372 per year. And as we continue to have these discussions, we will find that even more tax relief is coming to our constituents, Mr. Speaker. But I thank you for allowing me that time, Mr. Speaker. But I look forward to wholeheartedly support this, and I'm glad that we did bring this. And thank you, Junior Minister, for bringing it forward. And I hope we don't have any more discussion on this, Mr. Speaker, so we can just move on.
Everybody's entitled to at the comments to it. Everyone's entitled. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague already stated that we support this, but I just wanted to bring something forward from my time in canvassing, that I've noticed a lot of seniors over the age of 65 who qualify for an exemption underneath the current legislation are not truly aware, and I've walked through this process with a lot of them. And I just wanted to bring that up because since this relief is coming in, it's going to mean a lot to seniors who fall under that 45,000 ARV. And I just wanted to know whether or not, I just wanted to inquire and bring this forward to the government as to whether or not they've considered making this exemption automatic for seniors who qualify for it. Because what I've heard from constituents on the doorstep with mobility issues or all manners of things that are preventing them from potentially getting this in or having to call in a younger member, I think that it would make a huge difference if we're talking about relief, because I've met seniors who are 75 years old and older who haven't been getting their exemption at this time. And we have to fill it out for them and sort that out. So I just thought it would be a great suggestion to look into a way to make sure that that's automatic for seniors who qualify. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Anyone else like to make a contribution? Junior Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this particular this particular bill, I am well aware of. The biggest challenge that we have when it comes to a person automatically at 40, 64, 5 getting exemption is because there are individuals that owns 10 houses in their name. So it's the main residence. So primary residence, absolutely right. So can you imagine what that would be? And I'm sure that Mr. Dakuda would be on his feet talking about that if we gave everybody who owns like 10 houses or 20 houses. So that's where you got to own it. And if there are individuals that let us that we thank you for that. But there are people who actually do it. Mr. Speaker, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that during the time of the OBA government from 2012 to 2017, they had two major increases in land tax increases, and affected every single one during that time. Every single one, where the Progressive Party has been more progressive in ensuring that those individuals, like some of you guys in this room, who have ARVs over 120, be charged a significant amount more. Trust me, I felt the pain myself. And so the increase went from 14% over 120,000 ARV to 25%. Trust me, it was huge. Absolutely right. So it was huge. So the government has done progressive things over the years to ensure that individuals who have these higher ARVs pay us more. So that benefited Bermudians overall. And like I said, from 120,000, and then of course what my honorable colleague said, bans. And so right now the base will be $300. $150 per year. So it'd be $75 per every 6 months. That will be a bill to these individuals. And you can work out that 150 divided by 12, how much a person is paying. So we've helped out a significant amount of people that falls within that bracket. And I mean significant. Also, not only the owner, but mainly a lot of landlords passes on the land tax to their individuals that rent their property. So this is a great move by the government. And the reason why we're able to do these type of things, Mr. Speaker, is because as the economy improves and the government gets more revenue, we are able to ease up the burden for individuals that pay tax. And that's the purpose. Once again, we are listening and making things happen. I'll tell you what we did do, Mr. Speaker. In 2021, commercial properties are being charged 7%. By the one Bermuda Alliance, the commercial friends had properties 7%. This government increased it to 9.5%. So of course, at the end of the day, we was ensuring that those individuals that have property. I think I tell you right now, I met with them. I was very much involved in those days in meeting with individuals, and we were able to come to the agreement of 9.5%. So once again, Mr. Speaker, this government has been progressive. We recognize the burden that it falls on our people. So we started with the $6. As I don't remember complaining about our $6, but as you can see that we've continuously, and I'm still got one more to go, and there are more to come, that we continue to give tax breaks to the people of Bermuda. I'm sure that they appreciate it. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few further remarks, I move that the bill be committed.
Thank you. Deputy.
Members, it has been moved that the bill entitled Land Tax Amendment Act 2025 be committed. Are there any objections to that? So approved. I call on the junior minister.
Madam Chair, if everyone agrees, I will move all clauses.
It has been moved that all clauses be dealt with at the same time. Are there any objections to that? There are none. Continue, Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, Chair, the primary purpose Hold on. The bill seeks to amend the base rate of tax payable for residential units under the Land Tax Act 1967. Clause 1 provides the title of the bill. Clause 2 amends Section 2 of the Land Tax Act 1967 by decreasing the base rate of land tax payable in respect of rental units within all annual rental value bands. It also amends a reference to the schedule to the Land Tax Act 1967 to the correct column containing the rates for each of the annual rental value bands. And Clause 3 provides that the bill come into operation on January 2025. Six, sorry.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the clauses? There are no other members who wish to speak to the clauses. Yes, there's one other member who wishes to speak to the clause, and that's the member from constituency 18, the Premier. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do note on these particular clauses, and I certainly wanted to provide for full clarity to the Honorable House, as I know the Junior Minister stated, about the base rates. Certainly, these rates were increased in 2018 or 2019. They're one of the changes where we did an across-the-board change, and this is around bringing further relief. It is a simple bill. It is a nice bill, but it will cut everyone's land tax bill in this country.
Thank you, member. Are there any other members who wish to speak to clauses 1, 2, and 3? There being none, Junior Minister, you have the floor.
I move that the bill be clauses be moved.
He has moved that the clauses 1, 2, and 3 be approved. Any objections to that? There are none, so approved.
I move that the preamble be approved.
He has moved that the preamble be approved. Any objections to that?
I
So
move the bill-
approved.
I move the bill be reported to the House as printed.
He has moved that the bill be reported to the House as printed. Any objections? There are none, so approved.
Members, are there any objections to the bill entitled Land Tax Amendment Act 2025 being reported to the House as printed? There are none. The bill has been reported as printed. Premier, Junior, yeah.
Thank you,
Third-
Mr. Speaker.
We're doing the third reading, sir?
Yep,
Yep. do your
yes.
third- Huh?
No, this
Oh, you
is-
need another bill?
No, one more bill, Miss.
Oh,
This
we're
is
doing the
land
payroll?
payroll tax. Yes.
Okay, so for the listening audience, we're doing the second reading of the Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025, and the Junior Minister will lead us in that.
Mr. Speaker, again, I move that Standing Order 29-1 be suspended to enable the House to proceed with the second reading of the bill entitled the Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025.
Are there any objections? Junior Minister, Junior Minister?
Mr. Speaker, with the government's recommendation, I move that the bill entitled the Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025 be now read the second time.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to present to this honorable House the Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025. This bill will make amendments to both the Payroll Tax 1995 and the Payroll Tax Rates Act 1995. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members, the effect of this amendment is to exempt the employee portion of the payroll tax on payments made to employees on account of redundancy or otherwise in connection with the permanent termination of employment. Mr. Speaker, this bill represents our commitment to supporting employees during the uncertainty that comes with job loss. By providing payroll tax relief on redundancy and like payments, it ensures that more money stays in the hands of those affected. This government once again is committed to providing a relief and assistance to the people who need it most. Mr. Speaker, the First Amendment will establish a special provision in the Payroll Tax 1995 for remuneration paid to an employee in connection with the permanent termination of employment on account of redundancy or otherwise. Under the current legislation, such payments will be subject to payroll tax on both the employer and employee portions for up to 3 years following termination. This amendment will now exempt those payments from the employee standard rate bands, thereby providing meaningful relief to the employee during a critical period of transition, I should say. Mr. Speaker, the Second Amendment pertains to the payroll tax rates 1995, which currently outlines tax based on employee rate bands. This amendment introduces a significant change by prescribing a 0% rate on the employee portion of payroll tax for remuneration paid in connection with the permanent termination of employment. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to reaffirm that this government remains steadfast in its commitment to listening to the people. We continue to act with fiscal responsibility and sound governance while delivering meaningful relief where it is most needed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any other, the junior minister, shadow minister?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm almost afraid to stand up and voice my opinion. Some people in the government seem to think we're not allowed to express opinions up here. Yeah, we definitely support this bill.
Let him speak.
Mr. Speaker, we definitely support this bill. And we would like to congratulate the government on bringing such a well-targeted piece of legislation. You like that? And while they are looking at payroll tax legislation, Mr. Speaker, I would make a gentle suggestion. Perhaps they could look at how things like health insurance is impacting people's rises in health insurance are impacting people's payroll tax amounts paid, or the setting of the payroll tax bands in relation to inflation and how salaries in some industries are hopefully connected with that. But of course, we support this well-targeted piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any other member?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and listening audience. I'm really glad to hear that the opposition have supported this piece of legislation. Each and every one of us that sits in this space probably knows someone who has lost their job through redundancy. And besides the financial impact that it has had, it's also what it does to our mental psyche to know that there is no further paycheck coming at this time. So this bill is, I'm gonna say timely, but maybe overdue as well. But it's okay, it's because we're now doing it. And I think that those persons who have felt this will be pleased, because it's nothing worse than if you're kicking a horse when it's already down, and they're going to know that there's some savings that's coming to them during the time of redundancy. So I just want to say thank you to the minister for bringing it. I know he's probably tired of hearing my mouth on it. I'll find something else to lend my voice to soon. But I think that in terms of our people and the impact that redundancy can have, like I said, not just financial, but also on our psyche, this is good work, and I'm sure that it will be appreciated. And I just, like I say, thank the people on my side as well as the opposition, because most of you have heard from me on this, and I appreciate the support, and I appreciate the government for bringing it at this time. Thank you.
Any other? The Minister for Cabinet.
Mr. Speaker, I will not be long. I just wanted to lend my support. Thank you. And I know this is something that MP Ming has advocated for, and I'm so happy to see it finally come to fruition. It is a especially poignant moment for me, is because today at lunch, I ran into someone and she gleefully said she had found a job. She started this week. The irony of this is I do not know who this person was when I ran into her about 6 weeks ago. I do know she stays in your constituency, Mr. Speaker. I just don't know who. And she said, "Hey, I just got made redundant. I heard that there is supposed to be some sort of relief for having to pay payroll tax. And can you look into it?" And that's when I realized I know it had been discussed, but we hadn't passed it yet. And so I saw for firsthand MP Ming, someone who said, you know, I'm being made redundant. And when I got my redundancy check, $8,000 was taken out for payroll tax. And it's just completely unfair. So, and I just happened to run into this young lady today while we were buying lunch. And I told her, hey, that thing we talked about is getting passed today. And she was just absolutely ecstatic for persons to come after her. So with that, that very real example of making a difference, and it feels so much better when you actually know that someone was looking out for that and they noticed there. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say thank you for bringing this. Thank you, Junior Minister, for shepherding this through. Thank you, MP Ming, for your advocacy. And thank you, Opposition, for your 1,000% support, along with the ants.
Any other? Minister Haven, Minister of the Economy and Labor.
How long ever you need me? Go ahead. Mr. Speaker, thank you. I support this bill wholeheartedly. This is part of a government framework to increase both labor and social protections. When we looked at what is required to ensure that we provide the proper social safety nets for our residents, we provide the necessary labor protections. This is one change that is in alignment with that philosophy that we want to increase the level of social protections available to the residents of Bermuda. This change goes in alignment with the change that was made recently to increase the maximum redundancy or severance payout according to law. And so now the amount of money one can receive in terms of the benefit that they're due will increase for some who have been long-serving employees, and the amount that they return as it pertains to their take-home pay would increase. This has to be viewed by all in a very positive light. The situation surrounding redundancy is very precarious. We have tried to strengthen our law as it pertains to redundancy in terms of putting consultation periods in place so that we can better equip persons for the path to redundancy. We want to ensure that all options are exhausted as best as we possibly can. I think the legislation is written in a stronger manner than is actually practiced. And so these consultation periods, which is supposed to lead to positive outcomes, are not necessarily always meaningful consultations. They sometimes are used as a means to justify an end, which is redundancy. Notwithstanding, there could be other options worked out between the employer and the employee so that that person don't find themselves in a period of redundancy. This has also got to be viewed in the light of what we've done in terms of the sudden hardship benefit that we've extended for financial assistance for a 3-month period if somebody's income or persons find themselves in a precarious situation. If the home breadwinner has lost their job, how do we ensure that they receive some level of support during this period of transition? And the period of transition can be rough for some persons, and it can be a period where you never fully rebound because you can get in debt in that particular period, and missing your rent for a few months can be very detrimental to a number. The impact can be felt in a number of years of your life moving forward. Not just the financial hardship it brings, but the social and emotional hardship and stress that it brings when people do find themselves in precarious situations. So I don't want this bill just to be viewed from a tax standpoint. This view is part of a holistic set of suite of policy measures to better support our residents and the people of Bermuda. Being the minister responsible for economy and labor and having control over the Department of Labor, I'm certainly not being immune to the horror stories. Being a former president of a union, where you're sitting at a table and somebody's fate is at your hands, and hearing an employer telling an employee that this is their last day of work, and that employer leaves the room and the employee looks to you as the union rep and says, "What next?" And you don't have an answer for them. You provide a bit of comfort in words, and you give them a process in terms of what they can engage, how they can engage in moving forward. But the real question is never answered as it pertains to what next and how that person moves on. Now, those persons who were in my position have a better story to tell in terms of the level of protection that they can provide. So you can say, okay, we can see if you qualify for the financial assistance short-term benefit. We know that based off of your length of service, you may get a higher payout now. We also know that based off of the changes that were made today, that there shouldn't be any deductions as it pertains to tax to that particular payout. And so the story is becoming better as you can you can explain to employees what now. There still needs to be a better method of how persons are treated during redundancy, and we are looking at that as well. I've been told a person comes to work, gets called into a room, gets told that they've been made redundant, and don't even have the courtesy to go back to the desk and collect their stuff. They have somebody else security collecting the stuff. The swipe cards are going. They didn't have the courtesy to even log out of their computer. And so the way in which persons are treated, I continuously, when I meet with employers, explain that we must have a human-centered approach to our processes. If you plan on making somebody redundancy, can you also provide wraparound services? Can you provide the necessary employment engagement services that may be required? You don't know if that person may have some social emotional impact. Can you even ensure that they have EAP assistance? It is very hard for somebody to hear who's going to a medical emergency that their health insurance, the major medical, will be cut off immediately as well. How do we transition to ensuring that this person at least have health insurance for a period of time? All of these things are things that we are looking in. And so I don't want persons view this in isolation. I thank everyone who's advocated for progress in this particular space, because it does impact the lives are not just segments of Bermudians at any stratum and tier within our society. So I thank the Honorable Junior Minister for bringing this bill, and I wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? There are none. Premier?
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to make sure that no one else wanted to speak before I got up, so that the junior minister can close out. Mr. Speaker, the bill before us today is what responsive and responsible government looks like. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is not something that was inside of the government's 2017 or 2020 election manifesto, but it is something that was raised from a constituent to one of our political colleagues, the honorable member from constituency number 1, who spoke in support of this earlier. And it is something of which we have added into our program of work, something that was in our election manifesto, and something that we are delivering today. It is important because in the exact same way that others have told the stories, Mr. Speaker, I too have a story, but mine is a little bit more recent. Mine was just from a week ago, out on the parade route at Bermuda Day, where someone had said to me, "Why are you charging me payroll tax on my redundancy pay?" And I was able to say, unfortunately, it will not help you if you've already been made redundant. But when we go to the House next week, we are going to pass that change so that redundancy pay is not subject to payroll tax going forward. Again, what responsible and what responsive government looks like. We are, Mr. Speaker, a labor party. We are a labor government. You've heard from the Minister of Economy and Labor, who just took his seat, of the various measures of which we are taking inside of this area. And this is just one more step that this government is doing to ensure that Bermuda is made more fair. And so I welcome the support of the party opposite. The party opposite had said that, you know, they support this. And I think it was an and I don't remember specifically what the and was. Maybe it was around going further or more targeted or more relief or other ways. But I think it provides an opportunity for those persons listening to reflect on the fairness that this government has brought to the payroll tax system. Because though, Mr. Speaker, many of us may not recognize and understand, we have many constituents. Those persons who may be laborers on construction sites, who may be cashiers at our various grocery stores, who are making $23 an hour. And I say $23 an hour, Mr. Speaker, because it's important. Because I want to highlight, as we're talking about the general principles of this bill, and we're talking about the Payroll Tax Act, what this government has done insofar as making sure that we are targeted and help those persons who need the help most. So here's the thing, Mr. Speaker. If you are making $23 an hour, in 2018, we reduced your annual tax bill by $360. In 2020, we reduced that tax bill by a further $960. In 2022, again, making $23 an hour, we reduce your tax bill by another $240. And in 2023, we reduce your tax bill by a further $480. That's someone making $23 an hour. And I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, many of us know people who are making $23 an hour, whether you're a student, whether you're someone in, whether you are in hospitality, whether you are somewhere else. And of course, we understand, you know, about payroll taxes on tips. I guess the gentleman overseas may have taken that from the Progressive Labor Party government. Yet I digress, Mr. Speaker. So the total annual reduction in taxes paid by someone making $23 an hour, Mr. Speaker, is $2,040 a year. That is real and meaningful relief. And that person, of course, they have a cell phone, will pay $72 less a year as well. So we're adding on to that as well. And if that person has a land tax bill where they're going to be paying, and that's going to be added on that as well, Mr. Speaker. Yes, and if that person has a Belco bill, that Belco bill is going to be cut because we're adding on to that as well, Mr. Speaker. Relief across the board. Mr. Speaker, the cumulative savings for that individual making $23 an hour since this party was returned to government is $9,480, Mr. Speaker. $9,480. That, Mr. Speaker, is what fair, responsive, targeted towards those who need it most government looks like. That is the record of this Progressive Labor Party government, Mr. Speaker. For those persons who need the relief, we make sure that we deliver that relief. And how was it paid for, Mr. Speaker? It was paid for by increasing taxes on those making over $200,000 a year. And it is important to note, Mr. Speaker, because I will continue to repeat it as long as I have a place in this honorable house, that those changes to reduce taxes on 86% of workers in this country and increase it on the high earners was opposed by the One Bermuda Alliance. So that $9,480 of cumulative savings for that cashier at marketplace, that labor on the job site, that person who's working in our hospitality industry otherwise was opposed by the party opposite, but supported and delivered by this Progressive Labor Party government. Our labor roots run deep, and we will continue to deliver the relief across the board while also making sure that we deliver the targeted relief, because you can walk and chew gum at the same time. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the record of this government. Thank you.
Any other member? Junior Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all members supporting this bill, I move that the bill be moved to committee.
Okay. Deputy?
Members, it has been moved that the bill entitled the Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025 be committed. Any objections? There are none. Junior Minister?
Madam Chair, I move that all clauses be moved.
It has been moved that all clauses be approved. Are there any objections? There are none.
Madam Chair,
Approved.
This bill seeks to amend the Payroll Tax Amendment 1995 and the Payroll Tax Rates Act 1995, the Rates Act, to reduce to zero an employee's liability to pay payroll tax on remuneration given in connection with the permanent termination of employment. Clause 1 provides the title of the bill. Clause 2 inserts new section 9E into the Payroll Tax 1995. This provides that an employee is not liable to pay payroll tax at the employee's standard rate bands in relation to any remuneration falling within section 7(1)(c) of the Act. Payments made or things or value given in connection with the permanent termination of employment on account of redundancy or otherwise, but instead at the rate prescribed by the Rates Act, the employer's liability to payroll tax on such payment is not changed. Clause 3 inserts the new section 4D into the Rates Act, which provides 0% as the rate of payroll tax chargeable to an employee for such remuneration. Clause 4 provides the commencement on July 1st, 2025, and confirms that the rate change will apply in relation to remuneration given to an employee or former employee on or after the date in connection with the permanent termination of employment, regardless of the date of termination.
Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak in consideration of the clauses? There being none, Junior Minister?
Madam Chair, I move that all clauses be approved.
It has been moved that all clauses be approved. Any objections? There are none. All clauses are approved. Junior Minister?
Madam Chair, I move that the preamble be approved.
It has been moved that the preamble be approved. Any objections? There are none. Approved.
Madam Chair, I move that the bill be reported to the House as printed.
It has been moved that the bill be reported to the House as printed. Are there any objections? There are none. So approved.
Members, are there any objection to the bill entitled Payroll Amendment Act 2025 being reported to the House as printed? With no objections, the bill has been reported as printed. Now, we do our third readings. Senior Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me to move the bill entitled Customs Tariff Amendment Act 2025 be now read the third time by its title only.
Okay.
I move that
Objections?
the bill be now read a third time by its title and passed.
Bill has read a third time by title only and is now passed. To your next item.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me to move the bill entitled Land Tax Amendment Act 2025 be now read the third time by its title only.
Continue.
I move that the bill now be read a third time by its title only and passed.
The bill is read a third time by title only and is now passed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me to move the bill entitled Payroll Tax Amendment Act 2025 be now read the third time by its title only.
Any objections? None? Continue.
I move that the bill be now read by a third time by its title only and pass.
The bill is read third time by title only and is now passed. Thank you. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable House do now adjourn until June 13th, 2025, and I have been informed that there will be members speaking to the motion to adjourn, Mr. Speaker.
Does any member wish to make a contribution at this time? Mr. Hayward? Yep.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Speaker, since I took on the role as the Minister of Economy and Labor, part of my remit is to ensure that we have robust and sustainable economic growth and development. When I took on this portfolio, the first step that I want to make is to ensure that we had a robust strategy. So we went out to develop economic development strategy that would guide the vast majority of our strategic focus and priorities as it pertains to economic growth and development in this country. Part of that is ensuring that we have more inward investment and we expand our business sector in Bermuda. We encourage more companies to domicile in Bermuda, and we expand those companies, assist those companies that are currently here to expand their business activities in Bermuda. Oftentimes, I have the pleasure to meet with CEOs of local companies, both in the international business community and in the small and medium-sized businesses, which fall in part of the other sectors in our community. And I'm able to directly get a first-hand understanding of the trajectory of where those businesses are going, as well as explain to them some of the policy measures that we're putting in place. Oftentimes when I'm on the road internationally and I'm meeting with persons who are determining where to domicile, I have to explain Bermuda's value proposition because it's not readily understood by all worldwide what Bermuda has to offer. They have heard of Bermuda in some way or another, but from a business standpoint and a business ecosystem standpoint, there are certainly knowledge gaps. From an economic standpoint, they don't fully understand what's the drivers of our economy and the type of sophisticated business environment that we have. I think collectively, we can all take credit for the current business environment that we have. And that business environment allows us to champion Bermuda in a way which is deemed to be attractive to an international business. When we look at the economy, there is certainly a positive story that I'm able to tell those particular companies. I'm able to tell a story that since the pandemic, we've had strong and robust economic growth. I'm able to explain that in 2021, our economy in real terms grew by 5.8%. That's followed by a whopping 8% in 2022, followed by strong growth in 2023 of 4.9%. The real growth in 2022 was 6.5%, and we're projecting to have at least 6.5% growth in 2024. When that is viewed comparative worldwide, we are exceeding growth of the majority of advanced economies in the world. That is viewed positive by potential investors. I then go into and break down the significance of our international business sector, how that represents roughly around 29% of all economic activity in Bermuda. But then I'm able to go into something that many would not appreciate. And that is we had a business sector who had employment of Bermudians were less than 10% in the 90s, to one that is at its highest level now of over 5,047 employees, and that over 50% of those employees are Bermudian. It speaks to how we've invested collectively in the development of our human capital to power a thriving business community. Oftentimes, you hear individuals try to create this segregation between international business and our domestic economy. But there's a direct connection, and the direct connection is the Bermudian talent that is actually powering that sector. And the Bermudian talent that continues to filter in that sector. The opportunities now for young persons in Bermuda are greater than they've ever been before. Our young people now are taking their skill sets, going globally, applying their trade, and coming back to that same community. That is one of the stronger areas of value proposition when we're selling Bermuda as a jurisdiction. We're able to promote the way in which we invest in human capital and the talent that is actually available on island to support companies when domiciling in Bermuda. We're also able to promote and highlight our regulatory environment. And the Minister of Finance laid today the Bermuda Monetary Authority's 2024 annual report, which highlights the significant body of work. Oftentimes, in each and every one of those reports, it's a segment within those reports that outlines legislative changes on an annual basis. Those legislative changes come to this House of Assembly and are approved by this body. We're often asked or told, or this notion is raised, that the government has nothing to do with the success of our international business community. But you can't say that if we create the regulatory framework that is appreciated, that enables the business and attracts businesses into our environment. You can't say that when we are investing in the human capital that is actually powering that particular sector. We have a large role to play in the success of that sector, and we have a large role to play in the success of Bermuda as a whole. You can't detach the two. We are experiencing some of the lowest unemployment rates that we've ever had, Mr. Speaker. There's a number of factors for that, but the reality is there is the persons that are remained on island are generally working. We now have a greater imbalance as it pertains to the supply and demand of labor than we've had in previous years. And with the imminent opening of Fairmouth of Hampton in 2026, that problem is going to get worse. And so the Department of Workforce Development will be working on in overdrive on training programs, apprenticeship programs, to ensure that we prepare persons for the opportunities that exist in our economy. We will continue to work with our schools to prepare persons for the future and current world of work in Bermuda. I think the work that we've done thus far needs to be highlighted because we've done a fundamental job in terms of creating bridges to employment. More work needs to be done, but we have worked extremely hard in that particular area. In the coming weeks, I'll be issuing the latest labor force survey. Many will be stunned at the results of that survey, as it shows an ongoing trend as it pertains to the number of Bermudians in employment decreasing. You heard the minister responsible for social development, youth, and seniors regarding when she led the annual report for financial assistance, the amount of able-bodied persons on financial assistance decreasing dramatically. All of that is trending in the right direction. When I looked at employment income by industry, in every industrial category, employment income was up. It signifies two things. It signifies an expansion of employment. It also signifies wages progressing. When we paint the picture of Bermuda, we need to paint the accurate picture. We need to tell the truth as it pertains to where we sit, where we lie, and where we currently are. Having honest conversations of the gap between where we are and where we desire to be, I believe is critical because it allows us to make the policy adjustments to close those gaps. But let's not just paint us in a picture of doom and gloom and Bermuda somehow falling in the cracks, because that is not our reality. And the successes of our young people is something that actually needs to be celebrated. We have young people now in Bermuda who make more than their parents ever made. We have a record number of young persons in international business, but also service in other areas of our community as well. The amount of young persons that go away and get a secondary education is also increasing in Bermuda. The access to scholarship funding, the access to internships when they return home, all of that is increasing. That's a positive outlook for young persons who are looking to progress careers within Bermuda. This is part of positive success stories. We are creating opportunities for our young people, but Bermuda still remains a desirous place for workers throughout the world. And as the minister responsible for immigration, I continue to ensure that I strike that balance, that I preserve and protect the opportunities for Bermuda as best as we possibly can, while we're have identified gaps, ensuring that companies get the labor that they require. I think that approach is measured. I think that approach is reasonable. And I think that approach is actually appreciated from our community as a whole. We will embark on a census in 2026 that will give us some better information on our population numbers, but also our demographic numbers. But there is always one correlation that remains evident in our census data. That is the individuals who have progressed levels of education have higher economic outcomes. So that means notwithstanding where persons are at their current stage, we need to ensure that all boats are rising. And so in my last meeting with my team in the Ministry of Economy and Labor, the message was that we have done well to have economic growth. But our main focus now is inclusive economic growth, ensuring that everybody else or the entire country feels the success of our economic prosperity. This is why we're going back to the drawing boards as it pertains to how we better support small business and entrepreneurs by putting a national entrepreneurship strategy in place. This is why we're revisiting cooperative legislation as an additional measure of economic diversification. Having the legislative framework in place for when that option comes to fruition, persons can exercise their rights to be formed, be part of a cooperative, or invest in a cooperative. We're going to make it easier for our small business owners to register their businesses. We're trying to streamline the government as best as we possibly can. We will be embarking on a full digital economy strategy. That digital economy strategy would have 4 major pillars, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will focus on ensuring that we provide enhanced, digitized, automated government services. We will ensure that there is better digital access for private sector establishments, that there is better digital interactions between those establishments and our community. We want to ensure that we increase our e-commerce footprints. We want to ensure that we invest in human capital so that our people are moving forward with the technology that we're implementing, and we need to ensure that we have the infrastructure, whether that be a legal and regulatory environment, or we're talking about physical infrastructure in place that supports innovation within our society. Mr. Speaker, next week I'll be off to the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. I will be engaging in a ministerial where I'll understand how other countries are putting policy measures in place to support small and medium-sized businesses. I'm engaging in a number of bilaterals with other countries as well. You know that we have set up economic memorandums of understanding for economic cooperation. We set up one with Ghana. We're seeking to execute one with Nigeria as well. We'll set up those economic cooperation committees, and that's so that we can leverage the skills, the capacity that they have and the capacity that we have to ensure that their economy and our economy can benefit off of the knowledge. Often when I speak to the business community, they are very much pleased with financial and professional services that they can obtain, the level of legal representation that they can receive on island, the level of legal precedent that exists within our community. They're also pleased with the level of accounting services they can find. They're pleased with the level of accommodation they can get as it pertains to office space as well. We don't want the city just as a place where people can work. We also want to transition the city into a place where people live, work, and play, and we'll be making active steps to progress in that particular direction. What I've embarked on is setting out a holistic plan as to how we move this economy forward. Anybody that says we do not have a plan is either being naive, manipulative, or hasn't sought to understand the clarity of what we're actually doing. You just don't get continued economic growth by resting on your laurels and sitting on your hands and doing nothing. It takes active intervention into the market to ensure that the engine continues to run. No, we cannot take credit for everything, but you have to give credit where credit is due. We do have a long list of professionals who work on an ongoing basis. We now have industry on board as ambassadors for Bermuda who actually share Bermuda's value proposition as well. I am impressed by the increase of small businesses. If you listen to what I articulated regarding the BEDC during the budget debate, you would understand that over 600 businesses engaged with BEDC. We're increasing the capacity in terms of incubators and accelerators. We are doing what is required to ensure that we continue to create opportunities that benefit the people of Bermuda. The government is laser focused in ensuring that we have sustainable economic growth and development. And the Ministry of Economy and Labor sits on the forefront of that. I view the Ministry of Economy and Labor as one that is transformative, one that is focused on the future, one that is focused on change, and one that is driving how we actually get there. and how we bring our people along on that particular journey. I think from the purest standpoint, if we take a snapshot of where we are from an economic standpoint, we should be pleased. That's not to say that we shouldn't recognize that more progress needs to be made in a number of areas. We're committed to making that progress. But Mr. Speaker, this government has had a steadfast commitment in the development of our domestic international business community. It's had a steadfast commitment as it pertains to our investment in people. The budget process highlighted the amongst the millions of dollars that we are putting in this particular space, and we will continue to do so because that is in the best interest of the residents of Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister Hayward. MP King, would you like your 20 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Right ahead.
It's not all doom and gloom. I appreciate the comments and the statements made by Minister Hayward as relates to improving the circumstances of young Bermudians with apprenticeship programs, providing a means for them to achieve financial independence and agency, and to become contributing members of the society. Many who have come from difficult circumstances, and we know that education is the great equalizer. Another thing that Minister Hayward said that struck a note with me is it's important that the truth of where we are and when we need to go, we need to be transparent and accountable, recognizing what the problems are, what the issues are, and providing a clear path forward so that we can address the needs of the community in a meaningful way. Minister Hayward also spoke about international business and what a profound impact it's had on this country, and how through international business we're able to create opportunities, and we appreciate the efforts and their contributions. It's also important, Minister Hayward said, that we need to support local businesses and the local community. And statement was also referring to the fact that unemployment is going down. This is the trend, and when the next labor force survey comes out, this will be shown. However, there's another truth to this as well. Another thing that needs to be considered, which is the fact that financial assistance, the number of persons who are on financial assistance is currently over 2,000. And we also have approximately 1,000 people who are homeless or who are sleeping rough in unstable.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member is misleading the House. What I referred to was the decline in able-bodied persons on financial assistance. I never mentioned the total population of financial assistance in my remarks.
He clarified his comment for you?
I'm not sure why there was a point of order on that, because what I was speaking to was the context of unemployment in relation to the number of persons who were receiving financial assistance, not.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The member is misleading the House. The majority of persons on financial assistance, Mr. Speaker, are seniors, people who are not employed.
Have both helped? Comments have been helpful?
The point is, Mr. Speaker, is that persons who are receiving financial assistance are receiving financial assistance due to the fact of their economic circumstances. Were it not for the fact that they required public assistance to pay their bills, they would not be on there regardless of age. That's the point. So I'll move on. The homeless population is approximately 1,000. When we're looking at unemployment, yes, the trend is down. However, for the specific subsect of 16 to 24, there's an overrepresentation of young Black Bermudian males in particular. When you're looking at arrest rates from the police crime statistics, recent and past, there's an overrepresentation of that particular age group as well, which needs to be addressed. How do we address that? We address that with apprenticeship programs, educational programs, attending to adverse childhood experiences, as the minister stated, we need a holistic approach. Absolutely. The minister will also remember that back in 2014, we sat down and had a conversation about a proposal that I had, Success Through Academic and Vocational Education. And what it sought to do was provide a clear path for at-risk persons to receive necessary skills and training, and that jobs would be, there would be a clearinghouse for employment through a central hub so that persons would not be applying for jobs which existed, but all work permit categories, persons would apply for that and be trained so that they could take their place, their rightful place in the community. The other thing that was mentioned in the proposal too was working with the Department of Corrections to ensure that incarcerated persons had access to a full curriculum, apprenticeship and otherwise, with regularly staffed workshops so that persons who are incarcerated would be able to support themselves when they re-enter the community. Because as the system currently operates, the only requirement for a person to receive parole is that they have employment for 3 months, as opposed to persons who've served a long period of incarceration or to have the opportunity to engage in regular education and vocational programs. At present, that does not exist. Efforts are being made to ensure that that does. And we also recognize the profound impact that will be had if persons can leave the correctional system as qualified masons, mechanics, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, etc. They'll be able to support themselves and their families. Many statements have been made about the intention, the vision and mission to have an empowered workforce. The One Bermuda Alliance, as opposition, wholeheartedly supports the mission and vision. The concerns that we raise is that there is no clear strategic plan with performance measures that will ensure the accountability so that these objectives can be achieved. We already know through the budget process
Point of
and
order,
debate.
Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member is leading the House. We've had an economic recovery plan that has come here. We've had an economic development strategy that's come here. The minister has laid out those points, has expanded on those points, has gone further into his comments today, has stated those matters reported. He stated how they're reported. The honorable member is leading the House when he says there are no performance metrics. He has stated the different things. Youth unemployment down from a youth employment strategy. It is not correct for him to say there are no metrics. He can say we want more, but it is not correct for him to say there are none.
You got his point?
Mr. Speaker, when I was talking about youth unemployment, I was speaking to Labor Workforce Survey, which spoke specifically to that age group 16 to 24. Those statistics come directly out of that document. I'm not speaking about others outside of the 16 to 24. The statistics regarding crimes came out of the crime statistics provided by the Bermuda Police Service. So the point is, we've got a convergence of that age group and an overrepresentation in the criminal justice system and unemployment, and that's where the focus needs to be. We also know that that age group is overrepresented in terms of murders, violent offenses, etc., and a comprehensive strategy with a holistic approach, as the minister has suggested, and rightly so, needs to be resourced appropriately so that we can make meaningful changes and bring the trend down for the number of murders and violent deaths in this community.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
We debated a violence reduction strategy in this House. The minister has shared the implementation plan for that strategy. During the budget debate, it was talked about the resources, the increased resources that have been given for the execution of that strategy, the intervention into challenges with families that were done by the Honorable Minister Response for Youth Social Development, and Seniors. The Minister of National Security during his budget debate spoke about the increased funding that is going towards that. The Junior Minister of Justice, who sits in this House, spoke about the increased funding going towards corrections and rehabilitations and implementation of programs. It is not correct for the honorable member to say that we need to put more funds there. We just passed a budget that increased the investment in all of the things that he is mentioning.
Mr. Speaker,
You got the point of what
the honorable member is taken out of context what I've said. Yes, preview. I was not talking about funding at all. What I was talking about is a strategic plan. What I was talking about is a strategic plan with specific measurables to ensure that what we are trying to achieve, the goals and objectives clearly stated, are achieved. We've already, during the budget debates.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
We tabled and debated in this House a violence reduction strategy that contains specific metrics. The minister has also offered to make sure for implementation plans and etc. There are specific metrics which have been laid out. He keeps on saying, first was resource. He said, I took out of context. We spoke about resources. Now he's talking about specific metrics and a strategic plan. We have one. We tabled it. We debated it in this House.
Mr. Speaker, I just rise on a point of clarification. I just want to clarify, the member raised that he met with me in 2014 to present a report as it pertains to how we can integrate persons within our workplace. I just want to make it abundantly clear that I was not a member of the government in 2014. The One Bermuda Alliance was actually the government at the time, and so I had no authority or power to implement any suggestion or recommendation which was made by that honorable member.
The Honorable, thank you for the clarification. I'm aware of that. I was speaking to the Honorable Member Minister at the time in his capacity as, yes, in the union, in the other place. And in terms of his influence and capacity to make great changes with that population. So it was in the context of that we had a conversation. He's correct. He wasn't the government of the time. And at the same time, I know Minister Hayward is passionate about improving the circumstances of the underserved, especially as it relates to employment. So that hasn't changed. What I'm speaking to, though, is an actual strategy on how to achieve the vision and mission. I know that we have a gang coordinator, pastor, the Dr. Leroy Bean, who sits in this house as well. We've never actually heard statistics and outcomes in terms of what specifically is working, how many people have graduated from the program, how many lives were saved, recidivism rates reduced specifically as a direct result of being involved in the program. We haven't heard that. What we also know is that there's an overrepresentation of persons who are under the age of 30 at the Westgate Correctional Facility. We also know that there's an overrepresentation of young Black Bermudian males who are being arrested, 3 times the rate of persons of other color. We know this, the statistics, the government produced statistics tell us that this is so. This tells us that we need to, besides providing funding, which is necessary, we have to have a comprehensive and holistic approach, as was stated by the minister, and we have to have a clear strategic plan with specific performance measurables based on best practice and data that will ensure that we reduce the number of deaths, antisocial behavior, and at the same time create opportunities for the youth in this community to live a peaceful and just life. Those are my submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? Chief Silver, Deputy Premier.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to thank all the civil servants for their work over the last few weeks and over the last few months, Mr. Speaker. I don't recall us ever really thanking those that do a lot of the work for us ministers in this house. You will know, Mr. Speaker, you've been around long enough, that the budget process starts many months before budget days. And I'm not so sure that we give enough highlight to the work that our civil servants do. And you know, Mr. Speaker, that there are many in the community that give our civil servants a lot of flack. And I just thought that today, at the end of this session, that it would be good of all of us to echo sentiments of thanks to our civil servants. And Mr. Speaker, not only the civil servants that work throughout all the ministries and government, but in your place, Mr. Speaker, from where you sit, your team that you have that supports you over this period deserve a lot of thanks. And everyone, from the Sergeant at Arms to the ladies up top to long-serving members like Mr. Scott, who just happens to be sitting in the chair today. So Mr. Randolph Scott, that is. Because sometimes, you will know, Mr. Speaker, I've seen times during budget where we come out of this house sometimes and the sun's coming up. And whilst we all go through the process, the civil servants, your team that have to endure those long hours. And yes, everybody gets paid for what they do, but the families that have to sacrifice not having the family members around. So I take my hats off and give thanks to all the civil servants throughout the government and those that are in this house. I would also, while I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, like to thank the opposition member, one of the newest members to the House, Mr. Dwayne Robinson. No, I won't thank him too much. I don't want to spoil him. But I would like to thank him and my fellow colleague, MP Famous, for inviting me to their, I think it's a weekly show they have, last night, and to talk about housing issues in the country. And I thank them for that. I think the more that we can lay out some of the initiatives that we will be pressing forward with from our side. And as I said last night, that when these initiatives start coming to this house, I'm looking forward to the opposition participating in those debates. And I expect that when those things come to this house, we'll get the words of support without the but added to it. And I think that I'm excited about it, Mr. Speaker. I've spent 12 weeks checking the lay of the land, talking to many of the boards and committees throughout government, especially under my ministry. And whilst I'm thanking people, I would also like to thank the people of the country that have an interest in housing in the country, both affordable and otherwise, for reaching out to me over the last 12 weeks. I have made a lot of notes. My PS is probably getting a little tired of getting all sorts of WhatsApps and emails from me at all hours of the night, all hours over the weekend, because as I get ideas that are put to me, I immediately put them in writing. And I would just like to thank all of the people that have suggested, and I know there will be more, their ideas and views about how we tackle affordable housing in the country. So I would like to say thank you to everyone for their hard work and their input. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, Mr. Speaker, because as members Robinson and Famous will tell you, last night, We had touched on, because I think what's the radio hostess name? LA, is it? DJ LA. DJ LA asked a question, as a young person, how am I ever going to get a house in this country? And the only thing that I could tell her at this time that I thought last night would be, could hit home, was my experience. And I'll repeat that tonight because I think it's important that if anyone's out there listening and saying, how can I get my house? How can I get my piece of the rock? Well, Mr. Speaker, when I started working and started paying rent and had to go to Hitching Post and buy a loaf of bread and a bottle of mayonnaise for the week, I understood what it was like not to have. I understood what it was like to get my paycheck and not have enough to pay rent. I knew what it felt like to have to work 2 and 3 jobs day and night in order to survive. And when I had that young lady who said she was in her early 30s say, how could she do it? My advice to her, and my advice to any young person is, especially this day and age when education is so much more important, first of all, try to educate yourself as best you can. But if not, put your head down, sacrifice, and save. It's easy to go out there and work and find a job. And when you get that paycheck, go out and try and compete with your friends who have the nice clothes, who have the cars, who have the bikes, who go out to dinners, who take trips. But if you really want to be serious about earning a piece of the rock, you must save and sacrifice. And that's the experience that I had. And that's how I made it, by buying that first house up Broome Street, Mr. Speaker, next to Amstel Brangman, as I said last night. And that was a little shack. The windows were plywooded up, no water drain pipes, had to sleep on the floor because we didn't have furniture. My son, who was born at the time, crib was in the kitchen. Mr. Speaker, if our people want to earn, we have to sacrifice and we have to save. And as I told my wife, listen, if you want a house, there's no hair, there's no nails, there's no dresses, there's no new clothes. We're going out to dinner, there's peanut butter sandwich and Rail Bay Ford. Watch the sun go down. That was it. But in order for us to get to that stage, that's what we done. And I would tell all our young people in the country, there is hope. There is a way for you to do it, especially today, financing. And if we have anything on this side of the house to do with it, we're going to press the financial institutions in this country to start looking favorable at how we can give our young people opportunities to earn a piece of the rock. Yes, we do. And we have the mortgage guarantee program going on. We have another 2, as I said in my speech on Monday. We have another 2 coming on. That's 32 young people that have got in their homes and now approaching 70 odd, 78, I think it is. Right? So we are doing what we can. But I implore our people, if you want to get a piece of the rock, save and sacrifice. Save and sacrifice. That's the way to do it. If you don't have a mother or father or an aunt or uncle that's going to say, look, here you go, here's a little starter home, then you can do it on your own. You have to put your shoulder to the wheel, and you have to maybe do some jobs that you didn't want to do. I washed dishes. I waited on tables. I swept floors. I painted roofs out in that hot sun. And the Honorable Member Craig Kennan here talked about he used to mow grass, and that's how I paid for school. Well, I started going around Somerset knocking on people's door too. Can I mow your grass? At the time, it was 5 shillings. Yes, I did. I mowed that grass for 5 shillings. Yeah, I get 3 or 4 days in a day. I was smiling. Trust me, I was smiling. So I would just encourage our young people to work hard, save and sacrifice. Look at what this government's doing in terms of assisting, and you can do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You, Deputy. MP Dakuda, would you like to make a contribution at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right ahead.
I think the MP De Silva made a very good point, and I know my colleagues, I'm sure, would like to join me in expressing our sincere thanks to the public officers who participated in this budget process, who prepared the budget. Mr. Speaker, you've probably no doubt considered I'm quite a student of the numbers, and so I spent a lot of time with the details of the budget book and the underlying materials. I have developed a great respect for those. I know the Premier has called the various names of the public officers involved with it, so I won't do that because I'll probably leave somebody out, but we certainly appreciate, I know everyone in this chamber appreciates the time and effort that gets put into that and the amount of information out there that is available to the public. As you also know, Mr. Speaker, we are also quite interested in ways that we can make this process a more fruitful and efficient process for all involved, not least the public officers. And we certainly look forward to engaging with you, with the government and the public service on anything in that direction. And we're also grateful to the ministers that I would say worked with us to provide an opportunity for a good and frank and fair debate, which allowed them to put their messages out, allowed us to ask questions and elicit information on behalf of the people. So thank you to them as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. MP Swan, would you like a contribution at this time?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate what Deputy Premier Zane De Silva had to say. I've often said in the House of Assembly, I'm just a country boy from White Hill. And I know he's a country boy from White Hill too. We both were goalkeepers for Somerset Eagles. And we both come from that community. And the people who showed us we were raised in that community, I salute them, and I salute the people in the community that I live now who've embraced me. I might not be that popular with what I'm going to start off with, but Mr. Speaker, in 1973, when Lancelot Swan was the minister responsible for youth and sport, and Dame Lois Brown Evans was the opposition leader, was the first time I ever met those two at Youth Parliament. And without reflecting on a debate that touched on Youth Parliament, it touched me because I know the contribution that's made by your family, your late wife, and your son continues that legacy. And I'm mindful of that contribution. I represented Warwick Sack after I had left Berkeley, and they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, notwithstanding all the family members that represented both sides of the house and sat in another place as well. I waited 25 years since first running in 1983 to come to this honorable house. Well, come to another place to serve 9 years. So I waited 25 years between I first ran to be able to sit in this house. And I get here early because I appreciate being in this honorable house. Notwithstanding, I look forward to the day when young members who sit in this house can know what it feels like to sit opposite and sit behind the front benches and sit in those rightful places and sit where persons have sat for centuries in the oldest parliament in the Western, outside of Great Britain. I don't think I will be popular because it bothered me, this budget debate. And I'll tell you what bothered me, this budget debate. I come at 8:45, 9:30, if I have to go to work first, sometimes 9:45. And I stay until the bitter end. And it bothers me that I don't see these chairs filled. And that's not a fault of, the fault falls with my colleagues. And I'm old enough and I've been around long enough that I'm going to call them out. You need to be here. You didn't get elected not to be here. People think that being a parliamentarian is all about just, being somewhere else. You're elected to be here. You're elected to represent how your constituents feel. When we talked about the ethos, I took that seriously because you get the ethos from the people whose doors you knock on. And then you have a responsibility to learn how the workability of that legislation impacts your people. I listened to the minister responsible for labor and economy. Yes, and a member opposite made mention to going to him in 2014 in his capacity. He brings that capacity here. That member that mentioned him brings his working capacity to this house. We all bring something. People always make fun that I bring gopher. Yes, I do. That's my trade. It taught me honesty. It taught me how to judge things, and things aren't done by a cookie cutter. You can practice one way, and then the wind's blowing a certain way, and the rain's coming down, and someone's trying to put you off, and you got to stay focused. So I'm encouraging persons who got elected that you should be in this house. And I often speak about the benchmarks because the benchmarks cover employers. Employers should make a way for persons and ensure that they're here. I heard a young member say, or someone say on behalf of a member, that they had to be at work. And I understand that. He has to put food on his table. Those employers out there need to recognize that just like the military service, that's a responsibility that's held over a centuries to less than 1% of the population. And you don't get elected because you're bright. You get elected because some people trust you to carry their vote forward. Those persons might be business people in greater numbers. They might be working class people in numbers, but they put you there to carry them. If you're not here, you can't represent them. And I tell you what, I don't like coming here, making sure, running down here this week, working at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing another appointment at 8, getting changed, and running from where my car is parked to be here at 10 o'clock and see that others don't hold that important. But you said, you know what, Swanee? You've been around here long enough to know that it's time that you tell them what time it is. All right? And I quote sometimes speeches from other persons, not because some of them I read at the library when we had a library. Some of those speeches that you would know, Mr. Speaker, from Dame Lewis and Eugene Cox and others, Al Frederick Wade, because I read them. But many times I was here to hear them as well. And I said this when we first came back, that there was a time when these benches were there so that people held you accountable. I know it's a lot more appealing when you're up on the hill. So I hold out that it needs to be a matter of urgency that we go back up there too. We need to find the money. And I'm saying that from the fact of respecting being in this honorable house. I was moved to say that because that wasn't what I had written down. We need inward investment in this country to grow. And where's the growth going to come? Well, I'm spending far more time because I'm going up to Dalton E. Tucker to try to find the next Dwayne Permans and the next golfers that can play in the Bermuda Championship. So I'm going to where they come from, that community. But right next door is property that my family and other families, the Beads and the like, we're part of, Morgan's Point. And the premier would say that we've been saddled with $250 million and a responsibility to find what's right, how that's going to work to the benefit of this country. And I honestly believe that from the western side of Pompano on the water's edge, which leads right out to the ocean sea, out to the great blue sea with only about a 5-minute leave from a dock, right along to the port there that was finished, is the opportunity for us with inward investment from overseas. And you're going to only find that through relationships in tourism, where I speak, where I've been involved with all my life. It's been built on relationships. When I grew up, the relationships that I formed, caring for people, even up in Southampton, although I came to Turkestan afterwards, were persons who were the movers and shakers of the entire world. Mr. One Trip was one of the families that sponsored me in Europe. But they earned Pan Am and they earned Tucker's Point and many other things as well. So when Pan Am had that flight leaving Bermuda at 7 o'clock and U.S. Customs had to be there, the government didn't have to make that call. No, my boy. If one of his executives was staying up Napton Hill, it only took a few people to call a congressman who may have been on that board or whatever the case may be to move that needle. That's where you have relationships at the top end. I talk about history and Bermuda's connection with golf and tennis and the like. When the United States Golf Association was founded in 1895, one of its founders was the person that built Mid-Ocean. He had a house that was just sold recently called Battery. His name was Charles Blair MacDonald from the United Kingdom. And there was an act of parliament. I had the book somewhere around here that has the act that made it possible for his children, his grandchildren, to be able to have that property at some point. I'm here to say this, that Mr. Charles Blair MacDonald used to hang in Bermuda in 1895. Woodrow Wilson, William Taft in 1912. We had shakers and movers hanging around here. You have to make friends with people that can make decisions. Otherwise, you're at middle management trying to move things and you can spin your wheels. We need some serious dollars. And I have a vision, just like my Uncle Herman. They talk about, Herman had a vision in the 1930s when he taught golf at Whale Bay, where the honorable member lives. The Bascom family, which the young member from constituency number 36, her family owned all that property over there, the Bascom family. They had a lot of girls, so the family now, a lot of names have that, but they come from Cyril Bascom's family, right to Whale Bay Fort. And I'm here to tell you that when I talked about developing forts, it was that everybody doesn't have to be crowded and on top of each other at one beach. We need to diversify too. The Whale Bay Fort was upgraded and cleaned up for the Bermuda Championship because at a time when I had some oversight in that area, that vision prevailed. But what's the stop? And I had the former chairman of the parks come up there, the young junior minister that sits right here, come up there and look, and we talked about the fact that why, just like Windsor Castle and visiting those places, the forts as well, modernized offices. Why couldn't Whale Bay Battery and other forts like the Friends of St. George's are doing down there, clearing out, couldn't do what we did up at Whale Bay because the showcase is on us, so that people could go instead, who might be coming up there to golf or tennis or pickleball, could go down to that beach down there at Whale Bay and come up to that fort. And when we had Herm Porton, the vision for Herm Porton during COVID was an initiative I advanced publicly, talked about it, wrote about it, and thanked former Minister Lawrence Scott for acting on it with Viking. Morgan's Point could very well be a important base, purposely built for them to base there, and if there's properties there. If they're coming to build a dock, let me tell you, when I was a little boy watching Paul Lejeune water ski on a Sunday afternoon, many a Sunday afternoon I was watching seaplanes land out there too. And many Sunday, with the base personnel that was living near and around us, we might even get taken on board a destroyer or something like that. Or we might see some large ship out in Grassy Bay, great, out there. We have the capacity, and in fact, when they were building out at Morgan's Point, they were bringing their own ships right in port and offloading the materials. So it's not like you need any dredging to do it. Port Royal doesn't get its name from the queen or the king visiting Bermuda gets its name from Port Royal Harbor, which is right around Five Star Island. It was a commercial port going back centuries ago. I declare my interest. I'm a country boy from Southampton. My families are the Halls and Boruses and the Mamuses and all those folks right round that way. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that the opportunity to get investment is to get the right people here. And we have a very dynamic Minister of Economic Development. Come, let me take you all on a nice tour of that area and show you what the opportunities are. And then let me introduce you to some of those persons that I happen to know around the world. And others in this country know as well. That's why I keep saying that the opposition have a responsibility as well, because they may know one or two more billionaires than me. They just might. And don't let your legacy be the legacy of no. But let it be this no. If you know somebody, convince somebody to invest in Bermuda during this government's time. It would benefit all of us. That boat would raise everybody. And listen, we've talked about taxes and tariffs and the like. When that tide rises in this country, the folks that are my family and cousins don't benefit like my friends that I know that are in a high economic bracket. Let me tell you this. I didn't like spending hundreds of millions on something that could have cost 10. That's the answer. I didn't like spending 40 million on something that was unnecessary. I didn't like Minister Fay. I didn't like you telling seniors money doesn't grow on trees. We descended on that. It's because I'm trying to be constructive and pointing out where they could be constructive. But if you're just intent on being destructive every week to find ways to hinder this government, let me encourage the opposition to do this. Unfortunately, we don't have a library. But it'd be nice, and I know the honorable member, Dekuto Doris Research is one of the most research-oriented persons in this country for a long time. He has a website, and he has a lot of things on there, and I'd go there for years and find it. Pitt report, Truman report, you want a report. Put up some of those speeches from Lewis, Dame Lewis, Al Frederick Wade, and Eugene Cox as well. So persons in the opposition, and even some members in my our party can see what a real opposition did for 30 years. Came with solutions that a government did take too. No, I'm not angry. No, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. That's what we say. And I'm loud, but Moses was loud. And I'm here to tell you what I speak of, I believe in. When I talk about volunteerism, I lead by example. And what I'm here to say is this, is that we collectively can do more when we all tell persons out there that Bermuda is a great place to invest. And let me tell you, and I heard a little thumping, and I want to say this, because many times when persons come to this house and look to find ways of criticizing, let me say this, you can't argue with this one. The chances of what you say going on the front page is increased tenfold than what we say. That's correct. If you get up and say something, it's far more likely than what you say is tied it up to mean what the Royal Gazette might want it to mean. And what we say is more than likely to be taken out of context, if anything.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to rise primarily for this reason, is that the honorable member in previous statements that he made is impugning his fellow members and colleagues in this house.
You wasn't in the house.
No, I'm here now.
You weren't in the house.
I'm here now.
You were
And Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect to my colleagues, who I have a lot of respect for, I'm asking the honorable member to withdraw his comment. As it relates to his colleagues, he is impugning improper motive. He does not know why his colleagues are not in this house at this particular time. It is a known fact that members of this house have responsibilities, but I'm more than happy, Mr. Speaker, not on this particular point of order. I'm prepared to take my feet after the honorable member. But I asked him to withdraw, and I asked him to take that statement back. He has merit to a degree, but to impugn the improper motives of his own colleagues in this house on both sides of this floor is absolutely apparent and unnecessary, and is requiring a withdrawal.
Mr. Speaker, the member wasn't here to hear when I said that, in fact, I referred to the benchmarks to say that persons need to be protected because there are persons who can't be here. And I made reference to a member who was sitting right here at the time, who I understood why he couldn't be here. And I understand members on this side can't be here because they have to be in their place of employment. So I accept what the member has expressed.
Point of order. Will the honorable member take a point of clarification or information? I'm very grateful. The honorable member may not be aware, but I know that there is a funeral this afternoon. I know a number of members of both sides of the aisle are present at that funeral. Okay, well, the listening audience doesn't always necessarily understand what is going on. They don't know how many people are sitting in the chamber this afternoon. It is fewer than normal, and I wouldn't want any comment unintentionally to be taken in the wrong way. And I'm grateful for the intervention of the other honorable member. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Unfortunately, your clock ran out while you were sitting there just now.
Okay.
Mr. Simmons, would you like your 20 minutes?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to speak for 20 minutes. I'm not even going to keep the honorable members in this house who have gone through an entire budget debate, who have spent the time in this house. And Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to offer clarification on this particular point, primarily because, like many of our colleagues who are not in this house or during any particular sitting of this house, we are listening carefully on the radio, we are listening on our phones, and we are following our honorable colleagues on both sides of this house who are doing the bidding of the people of Bermuda. The reason I rose before, and I want to make this clear so that no one's under the impression, I have a tremendous respect for the honorable member. He represents in the East a constituency that he literally earns. He has done his job. He has done his homework, and he
point of order.
I take that back, Mr. Speaker. He doesn't earn it. I'll take that back.
Point of order.
Yes.
Got to see.
No, of course.
I think the honorable member is unintentionally misleading the House. There's no one in this House, at least of all me, who earns any constituency in here. And I took his point that he made, and if he may not have heard everything that I said when I referred to absenteeism not being supported by employers. And I made the point that it's covered in benchmarks. And maybe, Mr. Speaker, I'll run a motion on benchmarks if the Premier permits me, so that we can delve deeper into that matter. And it wasn't particular to this particular debate, Mr. Speaker. It was across the board I was talking about. And I do respect the clarification by Member Pearman.
Mr. Speaker, I take the honorable member's point of information as well as his point of order. Mr. Speaker, as far as I am concerned, and I want to make sure that this is clear, and I appreciate his clarification and the clarification of the learned member. The one thing that I want to be clear on is, because I did not want this evening for individuals out in the public to feel as though that there is elements of neglect by your colleagues, whether it be the front bench or whether it be the back bench. Members of this house have a responsibilities inside this house and outside of this house. We don't take any of that lightly, and we govern ourselves accordingly. There are those of our colleagues that are in this house that do have an opportunity during these times, but during the times to be able to sit in this house and to be able to stay from start to finish. When the business of this house is being discussed, we are here, we are represented. And when a minister travels and when a minister is not here, his portfolio and the issues for which he represents are ably handled in this house by those who are present. I recognize that there is a protocol and there are procedures that are clear over at our party headquarters as articulated by the whip. And the whip has made it crystal clear and he's re-emphasized it. I got it. But Mr. Speaker, be under no illusion, I don't want the public to feel this. We in this house cannot continue with the narrative that makes it presents the impression. The honorable member has risen to say that that's not his intention. I'll take it on board. I will say this, that we have to recognize that all of us have responsibilities that we cannot ignore. And we must in this house also state and defend when we, for other reasons, are not here. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to make it clear today that as it relates to responsibilities, as it relates to what we are doing in this house, we just went through 3 days by way of explanation. 3 days and 3 days and more of a budget debate. If responsibilities pulls us in this house on the Monday and the Tuesday, then on the Friday, we've got to, if we have responsibilities to another employer outside of this house, then we make it up during that time. Mr. Speaker, I can't agree with having to stand up in this house and to explain to honorable colleagues and to make honorable colleagues aware who, in my humble opinion, understood what it feels like to be, first of all, being elected to this house, and to realize that one, and I say this with the greatest of respect to the government and to the people of Bermuda and to those that represent everybody here. A salary that if you added it up, it could not and would not. And as a matter of fact, members of this honorable house have articulated that already, doesn't cover. And so if you are not with the opportunity of being a front bencher, as a backbencher, then you must take on, and I'm not saying that all Bermudians should take on the national pastime, which is to moonlight and to have all kinds of other opportunities. But until such time as until we have the discussion on full-time salaries in this house, so that each and every member can pay all that they must do, and are able to sit in this house and be able to say, we take on nothing else on board, there will always be a responsibility to someone else, in the private sector to whom which we assign proper time. We all know time management, and we are all in this house very good at multitasking. Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is that we have responsibilities. We accept that, and that we need to also understand that we must live as well. What has occurred in this house most recently as it relates to getting an increase and as it relates to receiving further compensation. I thank those that debated it. I thank those that deliberated on it, and I thank those that were for and against. But at the end of the day, Bermuda is not getting any cheaper. I recognize, as the honorable member highlighted, that there are responsibilities attached to that. If we are not if we have not conformed to the CPA or to whatever else there is out there that dictates that we should not be out, then we need. Then I apologize. Recommends. Then we have a responsibility to look at that. And also, Mr. Speaker, I want to allay the concerns of those in the public who feel as though after there was, during the other house, when pictures were taken of individuals falling asleep, there are individuals that are not doing their job, and individuals, and they may feel that their MP or that the individuals for which who represent them in this House are not doing their responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, I can attest to the fact that honorable members on both sides of this House take their responsibilities seriously. Some of us attach different styles to the way that we canvass, different styles to the way that we deal with our constituencies. And that is because we become seasoned and we know how it is and what it is that our electorate require of us. But it should never, never be assigned to the fact that because I pay you, and because of that you feel as though we in this House are shirking those responsibilities, because we absolutely are not. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that we don't have to rise in this House and have a discussion on this again. I would hope, and I hope that we can get past the fact that there will be honorable members in this House who, because of academic standing and because of requirements on the outside and because of financial requirements, find themselves under the banner of another employer, a part-time employer. I don't see that there's any indignity in it, and I think all members in this House benefit from employers in this country who recognize that if they are employing us, any member of parliament, that they give us sufficient time to serve, to do the Honorable Deputy Speaker stated, our civic duty, and that we need not displace the dignity of that by making statements that can be misinterpreted and that may create the feeling that they're not getting bang for buck. I believe we've demonstrated that in the last budget debate. I believe the new members who continue to contribute and will be contributing, and all of us in this House, the front and back benches, I believe we've represented the country well, and we should not feel and leave this place this evening feeling as though we have not served. We continue to serve. We take our call from the electorate. I spoke on it before. I'm not going to get into it tonight. That's a subject we've dealt with. But they have spoken to us, and this parliament takes our responsibilities seriously. You make a demand, Mr. Speaker, that we act, that we are right, and that we do the things for this country. And you make certain in this House that we represent the people of Bermuda in a way that they would be proud of. We realize that they don't get to see everything that we do. And oftentimes we feel underappreciated. But Mr. Speaker, we realize that they can't see all. And so we continue to work and do and be according to what they instruct of us. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate you giving me this time. I wish to formally, if I may, if the member would be happy to take it. I was a bit agitated earlier. That agitation has somewhat lifted. And as a result of that, I want to let my honorable colleague from the East know, as with every colleague in this House, with every person in this House, is that we may disagree and that we may rise to our feet. But Mr. Speaker, in this House, we will represent the views of our people. We will admit if we are wrong. We will admit if we are incorrect. But we expect that individuals will themselves rise up and say what is right and what is wrong. Mr. Speaker, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Premier, would you like to add to this debate at this time?
I'm not sure if it's add, Mr. Speaker. I think it's close.
God, you can close the debate.
All right. I can assure you I will not go 20 minutes, Deputy Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to commence my remarks today, Mr. Speaker, I want to echo the thanks and the comments that were given by the Honorable Deputy Premier to the staff, not only of this honorable chamber. As you know, it has been full throttle from throne speech to budget session, etc., all the rest, and also to all of the technical officers that do the work to prepare the briefs, to be here to answer the questions, and to make sure that ministers are prepared, that the debate can happen. And so from that perspective, Mr. Speaker, I just want to make sure I echo that thanks. I am, of course, in the Ministry of Finance, taking the budget team out for lunch when the budget director returns. But it certainly is a lot of work. And the challenge which we have for them, as they reminded me with a late budget, is that they have about 1 month off before the budget cycle for next year begins again. And despite the fact, Mr. Speaker, that we have been, at sometimes you'll say testy between myself as the Minister of Finance and the Shadow Minister of Finance, it is my hope that in the future that we can, improve the quality of the exchange of which we have. Because I remember the first time I was Shadow Minister, we got better with time and able to make sure that we can develop a better working relationship so that we can actually have the level of debate and examination which is necessary in this honorable chamber. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to cover a few topics today as we close out the budget session. Before we, go back to the rest of the year where we'll be meeting every other week and dealing with other pieces of legislation. But I'll say this from the perspective, Mr. Speaker, that there are some who will get the impression, due to comments that which may come from the honorable opposition, that the government believes that everything is perfect. That is not the case. I remember listening to, commentary around that, while it says clearly inside of our budget statements, inside of our throne speech, inside of our public comments, inside of everything else, that we recognize that things are not perfect and we are working to make sure they're better. And so the summary of my comments, Mr. Speaker, is that we are not where we want to be yet, but there is no question that we are on the right path, Mr. Speaker. And as we all know, that no government is perfect anywhere, no country is without challenges, but I think it is also important that you judge the work that is taking place compared to what is taking place in other jurisdictions, because we do not exist in isolation in Bermuda. We are part of a wider and broader global economy. And what matters most, Mr. Speaker, of course, is whether or not you are standing still. But under this government, Mr. Speaker, we are unquestionably making progress. And that progress, Mr. Speaker, doesn't have to come from myself. That message doesn't have to come from myself. The Honorable Minister of Economy and Labor gave a brilliant contribution speaking of the items which are taking place. Mention the fact that those persons that are able-bodied unemployed on financial assistance are falling. Mention the fact that he's going to be coming out with statistics next week talking about the reduction in the level of persons who are unemployed in the country. The fact that our ratings continue to be confirmed, the fact that we continue to exceed our expectations, the fact that we are delivering the second consolidated budget fund surplus this year is evidence that we are making progress and moving in the right direction. And so here's the thing, Mr. Speaker, we know that we are challenged with costs of living. I think the entire world recognizes that. We know it's an issue in the United Kingdom. We know it's an issue in Europe. We know it's an issue in Australia. We know it's an issue in Canada. We know that it is an issue everywhere. It is a question of how do you respond? What does a government do? And what this government has done, Mr. Speaker, is that we have taken action, not with talk, but with actual results. Because we know that we have cut taxes for most workers in every local business. And in this session, Mr. Speaker, we've built on that by reducing land taxes, reducing energy taxes, mobile phone taxes, and yes, Mr. Speaker, also customs duty. And we spoke about the combined value of what these will bring. $1,000 extra for a family this year. In addition to what we have done previously, Mr. Speaker, that means something. The Honorable Minister responsible for housing is sitting next to me, Deputy Premier. Record investments in affordable housing, progress which is taking place. Who's speaking about home ownership, our mortgage guarantee program, Mr. Speaker, 70 Bermudians on the way to the housing ladder, 50 of those already in their new homes, others approved for them, Mr. Speaker. That is the record of this government. That is the progress of which she's putting forward. And we speak to this budget. It is the expansion of healthcare, investing more in the vulnerable, expanding prescription drug coverage, access to preventative care, and expanding home healthcare options, which have been called for inside of the community, Mr. Speaker. That is what this parliamentary session is about. That is the work of which this government has committed to, Mr. Speaker. So these, Mr. Speaker, are not just promises. We have delivered already on the pledges that we made in February, and we will continue to do so throughout this particular session, Mr. Speaker. And this budget is proof that progress is happening. To the end, Mr. Speaker, it's not a choice between perfect and imperfect. It is about a government that continues to fight to build a fair Bermuda for all. And the importance of our time debating here, Mr. Speaker, can you hear me get up often on points of order? Because I understand what it is like to be a new member of the House of Assembly. I was new once. But the reality is that the better and higher quality of debate that we have in this House is the better and higher quality level of decision-making governance that we can give. And it is important and vital that we are there dealing with the facts. But here's what I'll say, Mr. Speaker. We are not done. In this term, as you know, we are just getting started, moving in the right direction. Now, Mr. Speaker, we know that there have been, comments, and I'm going to not reflect because I have a particular point that I wish to tackle today. We're not going to reflect on the conversation, discussions of which have been had, because I think that we have been able to aptly state the fact that we are not dealing with matters that are across the board reductions. We have targeted items, but we have broader items, and this is wide relief across this country. And this government has a track record of continually fighting for workers, continually fighting and making investments in person at most. I remember the Honorable Whip got up on the other side, the opposition whip got up and was talking about how when he was younger, he was able to mow lawns and, pay for university. And I was asking a question, where was that? Because here's the thing, Mr. Speaker. Bermudians who cannot afford Bermuda College don't have to pay for it underneath this government. It is an issue of upward mobility, Mr. Speaker. A pledge that we made. I remember 2007, I was chairman of the party, made Bermuda College free. And the party opposite removed that. We put it back in the first 100 days. And this is around opportunity. This is how you build that opportunity economy that the opposition spoke about. But we, Mr. Speaker, are actually delivering. Now, we know what we have done in this session. I'm not going to cover that again. But there is something that is important. It is important, Mr. Speaker, because oftentimes, and this is I call it the curse of being a member of the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party, is that whenever you speak about economics and finance, the automatic assumption is that you do not know what you are talking about, that you cannot be trusted to run the country, that you do not understand the funds. How dare you state this? How dare you state that? Well, you don't know what you're saying. Why would you mention these things? Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that this government has maintained its ratings, despite the fact that we have beat our targets, despite the fact that, as the Honorable Minister of Economy and Labor has stated, that we have the best performing economy in the Americas, North and South America and the Caribbean region combined, Mr. Speaker, we are still subjected to Oh, they don't know what they are doing. It happens all the time, Mr. Speaker. And it's not just from members opposite, Mr. Speaker. It's not just from members opposite. It is from the public, from the media, from spaces and places. And I'm going to quote specific facts. I'm going to call someone who has been a regular detractor. It was Mr. Peter Everson. I thought he disappeared, but he came back all of a sudden, jumping on the opposition's bandwagon on a particular point. And this came to my mind because there was an interview that I did when I stepped out earlier, and I was asked a question. And I reminded people where this particular matter came from, Mr. Speaker. So now I'm going to get there. Because in our budget debate, in our throne speech, even back, throne speech, items, things that were laid out, there was one particular mention, Mr. Speaker, and that was the reality that this government believes that with the advent of corporate income tax, that it is entirely reasonable to expect that we can eliminate our debt and build a sovereign wealth fund within 10 years. Those are the facts. Now, here's what's interesting, Mr. Speaker. The chorus of disapproval was quick and loud. You know why the chorus of disapproval was quick and loud, Mr. Speaker? Because it was David Burt and the PLP saying it. That's the reason why the chorus of disapproval was loud. But here's the thing, Mr. Speaker. Here is the thing. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, when the first mention of a sovereign wealth fund was made? You can't answer me, Mr. Speaker, but I'm going to share. The first mention of a sovereign wealth fund for Bermuda did not come from David Burt as Minister of Finance, or the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party, or the Progressive Labor Party government. It came from a document that was tabled in this honorable house in December 2023 called the Bermuda Fiscal Responsibility Panel Annual Assessment. From the Fiscal Responsibility Panel, a body that the opposition loves to quote, a body that they set up, that we have continued, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to quote from that document, if I could, Mr. Speaker. On page 27, it says, it would be consistent with reducing net debt to hold at least some additional revenues in a stabilization fund. This would help ensure against the risk of having to borrow at high interest rates on the open market if volatility that such revenues fell below base budget needs in any year, or if Bermuda were hit by an adverse economic shock. Beyond eliminating debt and accumulating liquid assets in the stabilization fund, in time, Bermuda should use excess revenues to build fiscal reserves in the form of a sovereign wealth fund, end quote. Now, that was December 2023, Mr. Speaker. No comments from the media, no comments from Peter Everson, no comments from the opposition, no comments from Gregson, no comments from anyone who finds a way to criticize the Progressive Labor Party's management of the economy. But let the Minister of Finance and the PLP government put it inside of a throne speech and watch the chorus of criticism erupt. Silence when it comes from the Fiscal Responsibility Panel, made up of persons from the United Kingdom, the United States, and others.
Point of order.
Coming in to give us advice.
The Premier is misleading the House because he's implying that something about our view of the Fiscal Responsibility Panel. But of course, this venue is not a place for us to come and present that view. This is where we come to present our view on the government's plans and policies. So the Premier is implying our view of various components of the Fiscal Responsibility Panel that we have perhaps not publicly discussed. So he's basically misinforming people what our view of components of that are. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I was trying
May I
to
continue?
let me follow and see what they're saying.
I got you, Mr. Speaker. So here's the thing. See, you know you're getting close to it now because he's got it up. I don't need to say what his views of the fiscal responsibility panel are. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this idea first came from the fiscal responsibility panel. That's where it came up because governments take on advice. So when that recommendation came, we said, let's ask our advisors what they think of this recommendation. It's not like I was just sitting in my house one day and said, let's have a sovereign wealth fund. Thank you. It came from the advisors, the same people that the public says we should be taking advice from. So now let's go because the honorable member, everyone can read what he said about the sovereign wealth fund in his budget reply. I'm not going to take my time to go over his comments. What I'm going to read, Mr. Speaker, is a document from the Ministry of Finance, which came to us in 2024. Following the report of the Fiscal Responsibility Panel, combined with the estimates for the revenue that would come from the corporate income tax to advise the Ministry of Finance on the approach of which they should take. I will read it, and for your benefit, Mr. Speaker, I will table it. It says, and I quote, "A growth and stability fund can secure Bermuda's economic future for generations." It goes on to say, setting up a sovereign wealth fund entails a rigorous process, but the tax revenues from Pillar 2 can be an unprecedented opportunity for Bermuda to transform its economy and achieve multiple long-term prosperity. Multiple funds with different objectives can be set up to realize different benefits. This, Mr. Speaker, is coming from some of the best accounting firms in the world. So here's the thing. We get the chorus of criticism from the opposition. We get the chorus of criticism from the persons in the private sector who will find a way to criticize a PLP. But when the PLP is doing what they say we should do, listen to the experts who clearly know more than us. The criticism comes. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to go ahead and read what this says. From the accounting firms, got it. The fund could become one of the largest in the region. In our example, the fund may reach $8.5 billion in assets under management under certain assumptions, and under these assumptions become the 33rd largest in the world, surpassing the Mexico and Trinidad and Tobago sovereign wealth funds. Not from me, Mr. Speaker. Not from me. From the Fiscal Responsibility Panel and our accounting firms. So I will close by saying this, Mr. Speaker, and it's important that the persons listening understand. There will be many things that are said about the Progressive Labor Party in government, but the facts are, as we close out this budget session, we have proven that we can manage this country through a crisis. We have proven that we can manage transition. We have proven that we can deliver relief and make investments to this country. And we have proven that we can listen to advice and make the plans for the future that this country needs. Mr. Speaker, I will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, members, for your contribution today. And we'll have a 2-week period before we return here. I trust you all come back well rested for a session.